Okay. Meeting will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
All right, this is the Committee of the Whole, Monday, October 3rd, 2016. We're at 6 p.m. I have Councilor Capone.
Here.
Councilor Del Sola.
Here.
Councilor DeFlorio. Councilor DePiero.
Here.
Councilor Hanlon.
Here.
Councilor Mangan.
Here.
Councilor Matusky.
Here.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Here.
Councilor McKinnon.
Here.
Councilor Napolitano.
Here.
And I have Councilor Simonelli. We have 11 members present. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Will the audience please join us in pledging to the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We don't have to stand for anybody, do we?
All right. This is order. Item number 1, the only item. This order, up by Councilor Hanlon as president, to review the position of Saba Live Poultry at 1934 Revere Beach Parkway for permission to operate a slaughterhouse.
Thank you. Before we start, thank you. I need to inform the public that is here that this is a committee meeting of the City Council, not a City Council meeting. Although the meeting is open to the public, it's not open for the public to participate in it at all. However, at our last meeting, we did ask for several people to be back here and to be invited back to speak. It is my understanding that of those people, they have picked one as a spokesperson, so I will allow that person to come forward, and of course, any of the others that may want to speak. But no one else in the audience is allowed to speak. We do have the petitioner and the petitioner present, so if you would like to please come forward. And I'm sorry, and would you all please identify yourselves, name and address?
Attorney Alfred Paul Freese, Jr., 366 Broadway, Everett, Mass. I'm attorney representing the petition.
Abdul Salam Mossad,
Okay.
1580 East 45th Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11234.
Okay.
Bilal Mossad, 1934 Revere Beach Parkway, Everett, Massachusetts.
Okay. Therefore, Mr. Faris?
Yes, sir.
Attorney Faris, if you would like to start, you may start.
Yes. I did have an opportunity to look at the last meeting of the council when this was originally brought forward. And it certainly appeared to me that there was a lot of confusion as to what was being asked for and what was being sought and the information that had been brought before this council. First of all, we are in an unusual situation. You know, I've been doing this for over 50 years, and I've never had an application for a slaughterhouse. In the olden days, we just called it a butcher shop.
Yeah.
But now, the United States government and the USDA has decided that term, butcher shop, is no longer in vogue, and now they call them slaughterhouses. We are here today because the petitioners are in a position where they have secured all the licenses that are necessary from the United States Department of Agriculture. They secured all the licenses that are necessary from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Board of Health and the city of Everett. They have complied with the zoning regulations and the building inspector as to the quality of the building itself. So what we hear is that ancient state statute that gives the power of the cities and towns to hear the application. And one of the things that it doesn't tell us is what standard do we use. There are a lot of state statutes that we come before this board. Fortune tellers, we had quite a to-do about that several years ago. There are entertainment licenses and dance hall licenses that give the city a final say, But those other statutes give us standards on which to use, and which to guide this council on whether it's appropriate for the town. Massachusetts General Laws 111, Section 151 doesn't give this board any direction. Doesn't tell you what standard to use or what standard not to use. I've prepared for the members of the board a little packet that is on your desk. And I'd just like to go over these so that you would have a better understanding of what we're looking for. First of all, the first picture is the picture of the location. And I'd be hard-pressed to say anybody even knew that this building existed. It was once, I understand, a machine shop. When you ride by Revere Beach Parkway, you're never going to know what is down in this area. And as you can see, the blue doors is actually the entrance to the building. And this big white building in the back is actually a mosque. There were some questions raised at the last meeting that someone wanted to know where this mosque was. Well, it's there. It's right next door. And try to explain some of the questions that were raised at that time. If we go one by one, there was a question of how cages are being cleaned, on what they look like. Well, these are basically what they look like. Each of them has a roll-out drawer, and that is for the droppings of any of the animals. They're pulled out, they're washed every day and cleaned. And they're subject to inspection by the City Board of Health, the State Board of Health, and the Federal United States. The purpose of these gentlemen wanting to come into the city of Everett, in close conjunction with the new mosque that is being built, is because it is a religious ritual in the killing, slaughtering, butchering of these animals. This is a photograph of the containers. It is forbidden in Islamic law for any meat product to be eaten if there is blood in it. So when the animals are killed, they are brought to these tables. There's a ritualistic prayer that must be given before the act is taking place. It has to be done with a sharp knife so that it doesn't cause any pain to the animal. These animals are never stunned. When you have a vision of slaughterhouses, you've got that vision of thousands of animals being walked down and being hit with a stun gun and then killed. Actually, the USDA has given this form of killing of these animals latitude, and the next one is, these are what the machines look like. These aren't huge, humongous pieces of equipment. This is the defeathering machines. There's two type of defeathering machines. Basically, after the chickens or ducks or geese are dead, they have to immediately be plucked. And they do it not by hand, but by machines. And this is a picture of the two machines that is used there. Once the chicken comes out and it's clean, it goes to another table. And as you can see, this table is a work table for 1 or 2 individuals. It certainly isn't a work table as you would have thought of slaughterhouses with all these animals, chickens coming in and necks being ringed and so forth. After the chicken is cleaned, it goes to a cutting machine. And this is a picture of what the cutting machine looks like. And it depends upon the customer, how the customer wants it. It is cut up whole, cut up half, whole, breast. It's all done to the specifications of the customer. There aren't animals being killed and put in freezers for sale that somebody's going to buy later on. This business is, you come in, you pick out what you want, and it's killed there, and it is dressed all at one time. It takes about 15 minutes for that to happen. Now, they have a separate room, which is called lambs and goats processing room. Once again, when you look at it, it is not what you would have pictured as being a huge slaughterhouse. One of the councilmen asked, "What do you do with the byproducts?" Well, in this particular instance, my clients have a separate room. It's a freezer room. All the byproducts are put in storage containers, put in the freezer room, and it is then picked up by various companies who use the byproducts. So none of these byproducts, when they viscerate the animals, is ever lying around. It's always put away, put in the freezer, so that it does not create a problem in the business. I think my client had indicated at the last time that they were considering having 6 or 8 goats and lambs. And this is a picture of the pen area that is in one of their other facilities. Once again, these animals are not there for a long period of time. If for some reason these animals are not sold within a week, they get rotated out. The next photograph is the chicken coop. This is how the chickens are kept. And when I see this picture, I fondly remember my good friend Dom DiNatale, who owned the poultry store on Myrtle? Was it Myrtle Street, I think? Yeah, Myrtle Street. God rest his soul. That when we, as a kid in the 50s and 60s, I would go with my father to get our chickens, and that's the type of a situation that is here as well. Now, there is, on the very first page that I showed you, there are 2 websites. YouTubes, in which have videos of my clients' other facilities to show you how clean and efficient and modern it is. It is available, of course, for all these members to take a look at them. One thing that wasn't brought up at the last meeting, that the most important thing, I think, is that is that when my clients came the last time before the board, they really had no knowledge that they would have had to come before the board before they open up their business, because they had already received all the necessary approvals from the board. And this is not a zoning problem where all the abutters who were abutting this particular land would have needed to be given notice under the law. My clients, as I stated to you before, are Muslim, they're Islamic, and they abide by the halal, which is, I'm sure, a strange word to most of you. The first document that you have here, the USDA regulations for slaughterhouses. All these regulations and inspections are mainly up to the USDA. They come down, they make their regular checks to make sure everything is done, and I would use the word, yeah, they want to make sure everything is kosher, but in reality, this is similar to the Jewish kosher. Yes. And if you go onto the internet, you will now find that many companies, big companies, Pepsi-Cola, Kraft, are now giving a halal symbol on their products that are processed in this manner. The same thing as they give the kosher symbol on it. My client does indicate that they do kosher cutting as well as halal because it is so similar. Now, there are all these rules and regulations. And the second one is regard to, you find this section actually describes the reason why bleeding is the manner of killing the animals. There's no stunning method used, because when you stun an animal and then in the process of cutting their throats, the animal could awake, and it could cause further discomfort. The last document is it's from a website called Halal Advocate. And it is an attempt, it's a good site if you'd like to get into the humane way these type of slaughterhouses actually handle the killing of the animals. There are certain things that are allowed under Islamic law with regard to the type of animals that could be eaten and killed. Blood, they cannot have any blood in the product. Most of the time you go into one of these big Stop and Shop or Market Basket and you pick up a chicken, and that's all you see is blood inside the package. This is strictly forbidden under Islamic law. There's no pork or swine. The halal animals are domestic birds, cattle, sheep, goats, camels, rabbits, fish, even locusts. And they then tell you what has to take place. The slaughter of the animals has to be done by a Muslim. And prior to slaughter, the individual doing it has to invoke the name of Allah to make it a ritualistic killing. And as soon as that is said over the knife, he has to immediately proceed to sever the arteries so that the animal could bleed out. It tells specifically the amount, the type of arteries, the trachea, the gullet, both jugular veins. There are four main arteries that they have to accomplish at that time. Now, you might ask, why are they coming into the city of Everett and want to build a slaughterhouse? And I sincerely have a problem with that term. To me, it's an old-fashioned butcher house. Exactly what it is. They do not sell wholesale. Everything that is sold on an individual basis. It is sold in the rituals that are associated with the mosque. Everett is attempting to become a world resort area from the building of its casino. There are going to be many, many, many individuals that would be brought here by Mr. Wynn from the Muslim world. How nice would it be to know that they could come to an area where they could get produce such as these animals here in the United States and here in the city of Everett. Once again, I don't know what criteria this board will use in the voting on these individuals' petition. I can only tell you that it is religious. It is associated with the mosque. It is a high-class operation. They have 4 or 5 different places throughout the United States. And I think it's a little more subdued than perhaps going into Chinatown and seeing the chickens hanging from the window that were just slaughtered in the back of the store. These individuals are here to put money into the community, to hire members of the community. They have sufficient parking, and I don't know what other criteria this board is looking for. If any of the members of the board want to ask questions, do the best we can to ask them.
Okay. Is that your final?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we could I ask Councilor DeFlorio to please start us off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Faris.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that after this board, you have to go to the planning board. Is that correct?
Now, as far as I understand, all the necessary permits have been secured. The only necessary permit that may be is the putting up of walls inside the building.
So you don't have to go to the planning board?
I don't believe there's a necessity of going, because nobody ever told them that they had to do that. If they have to go through the planning board, they'll stand in their head and go through the planning board. But I don't believe that is a criteria of Chapter 111, Section 151.
Okay, so your clients already came to City Hall to get a permit, is that what you're saying?
They have met with,
City zoning, yes.
yeah, they've already met with the zoning people, the Board of Health.
And health department, everybody.
Board of Health.
Board of Health, USDA,
City Health and State Health.
City Health and State and USDA and Zoning Board. We met with all of them.
So that, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand something.
Rosa, I don't know what requirement, this is a state statute that we're dealing with. And
All due respect, Attorney Farias, and I've known you for years, and I certainly don't want to be disrespectful, but before anything like this happens, do you think that you would do your homework and research and know exactly what you have to go through?
he was here. He applied to whatever they told him to apply for.
But he spent the money before he applied.
He had spent the money because he didn't really, he was not given sufficient knowledge that there was a state statute giving the city of Everett an opportunity to hear the proposal and to rule on it.
So is that telling me that he's gonna abide by these rules? Or is that-
Absolutely. First of all, if he doesn't abide by the rules, he is not producing his product under halal. And that's the religion. And that's the reason why there's a mosque right next door. They are going hand in hand with the growth of the mosque. As I understand, there's probably about 500 families now in the mosque, and when they actually do the necessary work, they expect to be 2,000 families enrolled in the mosque.
Okay, I just want to make it clear
Yeah.
that we as city councilors, based, well, I speak for myself, not my colleagues, I base on information where it's going and what I feel is right or wrong. I never base any of my decisions on religion. We have way too many religions in the city of Everett to base them on.
Well, unfortunately, in this type of a situation, you have a problem, because there are cases that have gone up to the Supreme Court of the United States that are basically indicating that one's religious beliefs, and specifically in cases like this, trump.
I don't have a problem with what they're doing.
Yep.
I have absolutely no problem.
And whatever,
Yeah, I'm not, you know.
if someone else in the city of Everett says they have to go down at 7 o'clock in the morning and knock on someone's door in City Hall and apply for another license, they will do that. But there's only so much you can do beforehand if this board decides, oh no, we don't want it in the city of Everett, then there's other steps that have to be taken.
I'm just not familiar with the zoning, I'm sorry. Maybe I
Okay.
should have done a little research before
This
we
is
came here.
as far as I know, they've
But
they've
I
met with
will
the
ask
zoning board.
building inspector
Yeah.
that question
Absolutely.
after my colleagues have asked
Yeah.
you all the questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman McKinnon, please.
Through you, Mr. President, to our guests. Mr. Farias,
Yes.
I've known you for years. I respect you, and I think that what we need to establish now is, was there any involvement with your client and the city of Everett?
Yes.
And what was that?
He came down to the zoning board,
I
right?
came down to the city zoning and
Board of Health.
the Board of Health, of course.
You need to have him speak into the microphone.
Please answer that question again, just so it gets on the thing. That's all.
I did came to the when I first tried to apply to open this business. I first came to the city zoning. That's usually the first step that we take, is the city zoning. So when I came and they told me right on Revere Beach Parkway, it's called limited business district, which means it's only allowed for retail only, no wholesale. And that's what my business is about, just retail. So they told me, yes, you're okay. And I did talk to the health department, and from his side, we had a meeting with the city health, the city health, the state health, and the USDA. We had a meeting, we talked about the business. They weren't, well, they didn't know anything about the business, so I did explain to them the whole thing. And they said, yes, they're okay with it.
So
And
they gave you verbal approval?
yes,
Do you have anything in writing? that they
No.
gave you? Nothing in writing?
No.
Okay.
But we
Were you,
can have.
yes.
do you have something to add, sir?
No, we don't have anything in writing, but the first, we usually, like, now we have 10 locations all over the United States. We have 6 locations in New York City itself.
Do you also have them in Pennsylvania?
We have in Philadelphia.
Okay.
In Philadelphia, we have in Connecticut, and we have in Oakland, California. So what we're trying to do, our target is, we target the Muslim community
Mhm.
and the Jew community, and also the people who's looking for organic chicken and antibiotic-free. This is our customers. So we specialized in those four kind of community, which is the Muslim community, the Jewish community, and also people who's looking for organic chickens and antibiotic-free. And to add to what the council have said is, everything that we do, there is windows. So through the whole pictures, it wasn't shown in the picture, it wasn't clear, like, for example, like the processing room here. Let me show you. Like, for example, this room here. So while we're doing it, there's a glass window where the customers get to inspect his chickens all around. So he picks his chicken from the coops from here. This is step one. And then he goes to the killing room. While he's looking, we process it for him. So, and he goes to the next room, there's a glass window, so they see the whole process from A to Z.
So they get to-
And wouldn't
okay.
even put it for them in the fridge, because they get it fresh, they go home, they take it fresh. And the only thing we make sure there is no blood, all the blood is drained, and it's healthy, the chicken. So the customer himself get to see the chicken while is alive, so he's seeing it. If something wrong with it, he's not gonna buy it.
Okay.
So we don't kill any chicken. If we kill chicken and we put it in the fridge for the customer, this is a big violation. They will shut us down from the USDA. We're not
Okay.
allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So everything is like, when the customers comes in, we process it right there and then for them. And
Now-
we don't do a big, we only do like between no more than 200 chicken per day. So it's not a big operation on it. Also, all our deliveries, we bring them in the nighttime
Okay.
because if the sun hit the chickens, they will die in us. So everything done in the nighttime. By the daytime, you're not seeing no chickens outside. You will never see a chicken outside
Okay.
or driving around.
Now, so you represent the other companies as well?
I'm the manager for all the shops.
For all the companies in
Yes.
the other states as well?
Yes.
Do you have any negative history in any other state?
No, you
Such
can
as
go
Pennsylvania?
online and you will see all the reviews, and we have a website, and you can call the other cities, like, for example, you can call Brooklyn, you can call Queens,
Mm-hmm.
Long Island, Oakland, California, Philadelphia, here, Connecticut, close by you.
In Philadelphia, was there any violations that were down in Philadelphia?
No.
In Pennsylvania, nothing?
No violations.
Nothing that can come up on those?
Nothing.
Okay.
No.
All right. And, let me see here.
We never had any problem with any of our shops since
So
we started.
no E. coli or anything like that?
Nothing. You can,
There's no history of that?
no.
All right. Now, let me see, getting back to the city. So you met with our health department, FDA, state, and they said it was okay verbally. What about our ISD department?
Who they are?
The inspectors department?
Yeah, we met with.
You met with them?
Yeah.
I'm
Is it the
sorry,
building department?
Yeah, it's basically, was there a violation that was sent to you, sir?
From,
Inspection
which,
services?
from where?
Inspection, you're referring to inspection services?
Yes.
That's the building?
Or a building
No.
No,
violation?
no.
What-
Was there any type of violation that was
No,
sent to you?
No.
what we did is, we did a cleanup because it was a machinery shop.
Sure.
So.
Did you get
what-
permitting
it's-
for that?
It's not us who did it. So the owner of the building,
Uh-huh.
we agreed with him that he should clean the building, and as soon as clean, so we'll take over it as of, we did all the necessarily papers back in May with the owner, and to start the lease as of September 1st,
That's a violation?
about 30 days
No,
Was
that's
there
not-
from
was there
now.
concrete poured on there?
No,
So
that's
he
in
did
this-
all the cleanups.
that's just
So,
today.
but
That was in this violation.
it's not us who did the cleanup in the building. So we agreed with him that he should clean up and prune the building, and we'll take it as when it's cleaned up. Because
Okay.
it was a
But
lot
you-
of machinery.
So you didn't do any work in there?
We did only the painting, the paint in the ceiling.
Okay.
And
There
was-
may have been other work, this is being handed to us today. I've never seen it before. they're alleging that there was
A violation?
6 inches of concrete over the existing wood floor.
Attorney Faris, this was back in July,
Well,
Yeah.
July 27th? That's the violation?
I never seen this violation.
Okay.
But
And do you remember meeting with one of our inspectors down there?
You met with the inspector, I believe.
yes, I did.
Who was the inspector? You
I
remember?
can't recall the. I think George. Yeah,
George?
yeah.
Would it be George Lane?
I don't know his last name.
Lane? Because on the violation, it basically states the local building inspector, George Lane.
But this violation in July, I never seen this violation before.
You haven't seen that?
No.
This is all new?
Yeah, I never seen it before. When I tried to, like when I went to the city zoning, they told me like verbally, yes, you're allowed to. So I tried like to get some sort of license, and also the city health. They said they're not the one who issued the license for my business.
I'm-
And
what I'm- I mean, I'm-
same thing
you
with the
understand what
state.
I'm trying to do? I'm trying to get some facts down that we, as my colleagues, will probably like to actually hear that as well. Of when you had contact with the city, who you had contact with, who gave you permission down there to do this, before coming to this board.
I
too, as
came,
well.
I came myself. I came back to the city hall to get the license for a building permit,
Mhm.
and I believe Mr. George, he did came to the building and take a look at it, and one part of that is the concrete, and I did show him the letter from city engineer, not the city engineer, I'm sorry, from engineer that I hired, structure engineer,
Yeah,
that approved that the concrete is up to code.
so
And during that time,
did you file an
they-
application?
during that time, they told us, or they told me that before you do anything, you gotta go to the meeting. That's when I found out about the public hearing, that's from the state. Because they were trying to get me the license or the proper license for me to start the work or to start the operation.
Okay.
So I was sent down to the clerk office, then up to the city hall, then back to the city building, until they told us, they told me that you have to have this public hearing before we do anything else.
Before you can get a permit, correct?
Before I even, but that was after.
Because it
A-
says
af-
first
after-
filing an application with the building official and obtaining the required permits. Did
But
you do
that was after they told me that I'm fine with the city zoning, and I'm okay, like, to go ahead.
Did you
and-
get a permit?
No,
You didn't get the permit?
no.
Okay. All right. And you knew that you had to get a permit though, right?
Sooner or later, they do.
Yeah, correct, right?
Yeah,
Everything
sooner.
we do, we have to go through permits, so.
Yeah.
All right, but were you in violation of this, not getting a permit?
I don't know if I am.
Since July, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about July 27th?
Anything prior to
because
September
I'm-
is the first time we're
A week
responsible.
ago.
Yeah, well, it's October now.
Actually, it's the first time I've seen it, and I will,
July, September, October?
I will address it, because it's the first time I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah. If
So-
if they require certain architectural plans, then they will be drawn up. And if they don't get a permit then we're all wasting our time.
Sure. Attorney, did they put funds into the building already before this?
Yeah, it's my understanding, they've cleaned the building up and painted.
Okay. And
It
then
was,
And actually, the rents,
this, and then maybe did some of this concrete work, maybe? Looks like there's some concrete work that was done, maybe, or something
Yep.
like that.
yeah, was,
I only
concrete
visited the first floor,
work, yeah.
and I couldn't tell of any concrete being done on the
Sure.
first floor. That says the basement, so
Right.
I didn't get onto the basement.
Right, thank you for that.
Yep.
Let me see, I have a couple more questions, Mr. President. Is that okay?
Right.
Well, thank you. Let's see. Now, you say basically, it would be nice if we had like, on every other company that you have of operation, if there was any complaints or anything like that, that if we knew about that prior, then that would settle
You more
a
than
lot of
welcome, you
people's-
know, our name is, our shops is, they all, you know, I can give you the addresses of them, and I'll give you the cities, you can contact them, I don't think they're gonna they'll tell you better than what I tell you, you'll listen from them better. So I'll give you like I'll give you the names of our stores, give you the inspector who we deal with, whoever you need. Any information you need, I'll get it for you, just make me a list, I'll get it ready for
Okay.
you guys.
If there's
And
if there's a problem, the USDA, it's
They're
gotta,
Yeah, they're gonna have a record.
And-
yeah,
They should.
I'll record it.
And there is.
The state will have record as well. correct?
And you can even send one of you or two of you to visit our facilities. We have, you know, you guys more than welcome to come anytime. You don't even have to make an appointment, you just go there and see how we operate, and if you see is something that you guys like, you know, you can decide then. That's all I can
I
tell.
just think that, you know, we have our own system in place, other than the state, and you're seeing that now, which you received a violation for, you may have not known about that, but it's saying that you did here.
We don't know about this
And,
violation.
You know, we
In all
do have our
in all
own-
due respect, let's be right about this.
Okay.
Who was it sent to?
Well, I'm assuming it, yeah, I'd actually like to bring up, should I bring up Jimmy? Jim, can I bring up Jim Sopa, please?
Why don't you wait till we finish with them?
Okay, yeah,
and
I'll
then we'll do
I'll
it
save
that
my
way.
comment for after.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that the letter was sent to Frank Coviello, trustee of the 1934 Realty Trust, and not sent to my client, so.
It wasn't sent to us, if we sent us,
I'm sure if it was sent to them, they would have given it to me, and
would've
I would have
Yeah.
immediately,
Said,
if not sooner, run down to inspection of services.
What I'll do is I'll save my questions for later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
President.
Councilor Capone, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to our invited guests. Good evening, gentlemen.
Even-
Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for the packet. The photos always help. It's one thing to hear things, one thing even read it. But when you actually see the photos, it does help try to put some clarity and maybe get some questions together. I did go online to try to research your company, as I would with any company that's coming into our community. It looks like, from what I got, it looks like it's a family business.
yes. it is.
How long have you guys been in business?
Since 1998.
1998. And I know you have locations in 4 states, I believe: Pennsylvania, Connecticut, California, and New York. Where did you start? Did you start in New York?
I started in New York.
New York, okay. Now, as far as, and I'm sure each of these facilities are a little bit different depending on neighborhoods, market, et cetera. What types of animals are you looking to have here in Everett?
We looking to do chickens, lambs, and goats.
Chickens, lambs, and goats. All right. Do you foresee expanding the product line beyond that down the road, or that's pretty
No,
much where you're at?
That's all we doing. Like,
Okay.
for example, some of our shops only do chickens, like especially in New York City, because we don't want to compete with the lambs. We didn't do a lot of lambs. It's only certain with the holidays. The Muslim holidays only once a year, so we don't want to spend all that money for the lambs and goats, because we only do, like, during the week we only do 2 or 3. It's only the holidays we do a lot. Like, for example, now in the Muslims here in this community, in the holiday, what they do, they go to the farms, they take their lambs, they go back to the house, slaughter it in the bathroom somewhere, and do it in their house. So we're trying to prevent it from happening. The Jew also, they have one holiday once a year. They slaughter, each family member have to slaughter 1 chicken. So there, some of them, they slaughter them in the street. So it's better they come and slaughter it by us.
Okay. So how many of each animal do you expect to have on hand in the Everett facility
And
in a typical day?
typical day, let's say chickens between 100 to 300, maybe 400 the max.
100 to 400?
Yes,
Okay.
chickens. Lambs and goats no more than 5, 6.
Each?
Yes,
Okay, so 5 to 6. And you said you're going to be doing your deliveries during the evening.
the evening
All right. I'm looking at the first photo that basically shows the side of the building. Being from Ward 1, and a couple other colleagues up here from Ward 1, we're probably the only ones that knew where the building was. But I'm looking at this, and right now, is there any access to the facility for customers by way of vehicle on the other side, or is it all right off the Parkway?
What do you mean by that?
If you're a customer and you want to get to your shop, the primary way would be Revere Beach Parkway.
Yes.
Is there any way for them to come the opposite direction, or is this the
Yeah,
only
they-
way in and out?
From the back, from the mosque
From
driveway.
Spring Street. From the other side, Spring
right.
Street.
Is this the same owner, the entire property? I don't know if you know Attorney Freeze.
I don't. Who owns the mosque?
The
area that
mosque in-
is in?
No, the mosque owns the area. Mosque owns the building for the mosque, and this is a different owner.
Okay.
For that.
So-
So we're leasing it to Whites.
Okay, so my concern would be if they're different owners, and you're leasing the space where you have your animals, are your customers going to be given the authority to cross over the other land to come and go?
They have, there's two entrances. One entrance is owned by the owner who we rent from,
Mhm.
and the other access is from the mosque. So we have, we have authority from the mosque to
Okay,
have.
so the mosque said it's okay, people could come and go?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as your deliveries, how many deliveries a week do you think that you'd be doing?
About 2 to 3 times.
Okay, 2 to 3. And what do you anticipate your turnover is going to be in terms, I know you've got various animals that are being housed every day, and you've got 2 to 3 deliveries. How many animals are going to come out each delivery? Do you have any idea of what you think your
Okay, let's
volume
say-
might be?
Like we start usually, it takes us, those shops is so hard to, it takes like at least a year to 2 years for
Okay,
them
to figure out what
figure
you're-
out what you're doing.
Okay,
Because it's so hard for you to track people into it,
Okay.
because it's new. It's only like, for now, we only starting with the Muslims, but you have to try to bring the neighbor too.
Right.
So what we do with the neighbors, we try to bring them the organic and antibiotic-free, so to
Okay.
track them into the place.
now currently, there are vehicles that are listed for sale out in that property. Is that the property landlord that's doing that?
Yes.
Okay. Is that going to continue?
No.
Okay, so that's
Because
going to
we
come
leased
out.
it. That's-
You need the
that's an old
space.
picture. This is gonna
Okay.
be all free and clear.
Okay, because it's a little tight over there, and if that's going on, I don't know how you'd be able to do
No,
that.
it's not.
And what are you looking at for hours of operation?
We open from 8 to 5, 6 days a week.
6 days a week?
Yes.
Closed on Sunday?
We
no?
don't close, but we do a cleanup.
Okay.
Where we do a major cleanup where we try to finish all any livestock there is left in the shop, so we start the week fresh.
Okay, so no sales will occur
No,
on
if there
Sunday?
is a lot of chickens or
Mhm.
rams left over, if it's a slow week, we open.
Okay,
If it's a busy weeks, we just clean up.
okay,
It
so,
depends on the business.
okay, so there is a potential?
Yes.
7 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. And I know that you're really not sure about the volume. It does take a little while in order to know what you're doing. To open up in a market, you must have done some research to let you know that there is a market here. Do you have any idea what kind of foot traffic, car traffic that you might have in the course of a day?
We thinking about maybe about 20 to 25 customers per day. We thinking about 20 to 25 customers per day to start.
Okay. 20 to 25 customers per day. Okay. And your typical customer, how many animals will your typical, some will probably buy one chicken, some will buy multiple things, because
Yes.
you're looking at between, I think at one point you're saying you thought maybe you might be doing 200 chickens a day or something of that nature, so,
Some customers, like they have big family and they travel from far away, they take more than one. The closest one, they'll take less, and depends on.
okay. As far as your square footage in the building, how much is the full square footage? And what I'm going to ask you to do, if it's okay with you, Mr. President, is kind of take us through the process. Customer walks in the building and take us through the process, what they see, where they go, what areas they're restricted from. Because for me, that would help me understand exactly what happens from beginning to end.
The customer, the place is kind of,
Let's go with size first, square footage.
The-
What do
the
we?
si- the size, I think it's 5 or 5,500 square feet.
but It's 50, about, I think it's.
5,000.
53. It's between 5,000 to 5,300
Some
square
sort.
foot.
Okay.
But we only, like, is the place we usually, the minimums, we, between 25 to 3,000, this is what we're gonna be using. The rest of it is gonna be storage. Because it's a
Okay.
big place, so this
Okay.
is the place we found. So the customer is gonna be like, they only allowed to be where, to look at the chickens. When they pick it, they show us,
Okay.
where the chicken is.
Okay.
And then they get to see the
So
process.
this picture here, this final picture,
Yes,
they're actually coming pretty close to the cages?
yes, sometimes
Okay.
they might have to touch, some of them, they like to touch them.
Okay,
So,
okay. So, all right, so, you know,
Touch.
see, you know, if it's fat or if it's all feathers versus meat or
Yes.
something of that, I would imagine. Okay, and how big is that area that you would be storing these chickens? Because 400 chickens is a lot of chickens. So I'd imagine that's probably a pretty good
No,
sized
that's
room.
why we have the cages. If you look at the cages,
Yeah.
that, for example, that cage itself, one cage, holds, each section holds between 10 to 15.
Okay,
If-
so you
if
could have
count,
45
it's eight.
chickens in this?
Usually, I'm sorry?
You could have 45 chickens in this cage?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually between 45 to 60, depends on the heights of the coops. Some, like, if we, depends on the building we have. If it's a high ceiling, we go a little higher. If it's a low ceiling, we go a little lower.
Okay,
Because we custom make those cages. There's no company that makes them. We make them
Okay.
ourselves.
okay. So why don't we let you walk us through a typical transaction? Customer comes in, they want whatever animal they're looking for.
The customers, they come in, first they tell you, okay, I need, let's say, organic chicken, a red chicken, a black chicken, wherever they describe the kind of chicken they want. We show them where they are, they pick the chicken they want, we put it in the scale for them, we weigh it. We give them a number in their hand, a number, we tie it in the leg of the chickens, give them the price.
So I'm trying to, every step. So the customer comes in, they want to buy a chicken.
Maybe
Some of them are
explain what
going
the-
up and touching the chickens, some of them are looking at them. They pick what they want, and then at that point, once they pick the animal they want, do they now step out of there, go into a waiting area, do they stay there?
No, what they do, some of them, not all of them, but like some of them, they like to see how the process works, the whole process.
Okay.
They wanted to see that you doing the right thing.
Okay.
So there's, as soon as we pick it up.
And that's
from the
that
hooves,
that
yes,
glass that you were
yes.
talking about?
They go
Okay.
toward the glass,
Okay.
they look at it while we processing it, and then they move. As the chicken move, they move. It's like a car wash. I don't know if you,
Okay.
it's almost like the car wash, when you walk next to your car until it comes out from the other side. This is exactly what they do. So when it comes out from the window,
Mhm.
the cashier's next to the window, they bait, they pick up their chicken, and they leave.
Okay. So as they go through the process, these rooms are all sealed?
It's sealed, yes.
There's-
They're not allowed to be
Customers
there.
aren't coming in contact
No.
with any
They're not allowed.
fluids, air,
No,
anything?
they-
There's
they're
no
not
airborne
allowed.
stuff? Okay.
No, they're not allowed.
And then, once they get through the entire process, it's cut however they want it cut?
Yes.
And then it's packaged, how is it packaged?
In clear bags.
Okay, and sealed, and they take?
Sealed and labeled how to cook it and what kind of temperature, how they allow, if they go in far away, we give them ice, and if it's close by, they just take it.
Okay. I did pull up a list of your locations, and I did contact the Board of Health for all those different areas, just to see what we're looking at.
Yes.
And again, I do this for everybody who comes in front of
No,
us.
no problem.
So don't feel that you're singled out at all. I want to make sure that whomever we have in our community, you're going to be a good neighbor.
Yes.
And if you're a good neighbor somewhere else, there's usually a pretty good indication that you'll be a good neighbor here, and vice versa. There were a couple of things that concerned me in some of the communities. In Brooklyn, there were the Rockaway Ave location. There were two recent inspections, March of 2016 and April of 2016, that they both failed because of lack of hot water. Hot water is something that seems to come up consistently in a lot of locations.
Okay.
There was Brooklyn, there was a hot water situation twice. Hot water in the Grand Concourse location in the Bronx back in September 27th of 2016. In Philadelphia, there was September 27, 2016. There were some cleaning issues. There were some concerns about excessive flies, mice. I've got reports from Philly that's online. Anybody can get it. It's all public information.
It's all public. It's all
It's,
public, everybody can see.
yeah, and these reports go from as far back as March of 2014, and the most recent one was September 27th of 2016. So there's 6 reports here. On these reports, one thing that consistently comes up is lack of hot water, several sinks. There's hand wash sinks in the chicken prep room. Either one of the hand wash sinks do not have hot water, and there, at least this most recent one in Philly, there was no soap at all for either of the hand washed chickens. And I would think that cleanliness has got to be right up there as like one of the #1 priorities.
Yeah, that's common thing, you know, when the inspector walks in, if it's not 180 degrees, the hot water, they usually write
They
you
write
off.
no hot water.
They write you off. And what
Okay.
they do, they usually come within 5 days.
Okay.
Because in New York, let me tell you how New York works.
Sure.
The inspector comes in New York every two weeks to 4 weeks. They have to come. They come constant, and we get inspected three times. From every week, we get 3 inspectors that comes to us. So they always have to find something. You know, if the water is low, you have to stop the operation, and then you have to wait until the water gets 180 degrees, and you have to report it.
Okay,
And sometimes they might have to issue a violation to you.
okay.
Yeah, that's is a normal thing.
How about the no soap in both, no soap in both sinks? I can understand about the temperature of the water, maybe it doesn't hit a proper degree, but one of the indications on this inspection report from September 27th of this year says that there was no soap on either of those sinks, the chicken prep area.
That's, I think, the first time we had no soap.
Okay.
I think that's.
Okay. The other thing that comes up quite a bit is mouse droppings and flies. Now, I don't know if that's the nature of the business, or, you know, some of them, there were mouse droppings on shelves, storage areas.
In New York City, there's a lot of trains all over, you know, the train underground. So where our shop is next to the train. We usually have the pest control every 2 weeks, and this is one of the things in New York City.
Okay. One of the other issues was a 3-bay sink faucet was leaking. Wastewater from a hand wash sink in the chicken prep room is directed to the floor. So actually, wastewater from that sink was on the floor, which isn't sanitary. These are just some of the concerns I
Yeah.
have, so.
That's something, you know, usually happens. It's not like,
Okay.
I can't guarantee 100% it's not gonna happen. If I say that, I would lie to you.
Sure.
But even in our own houses, you know, you usually have sink broken or something, but you get no
Right.
smoke to come.
Right.
You know, it takes.
Right, and, you know,
But
being.
we usually on top of it because this is our
Okay.
living.
Absolutely.
This is where we make our
And when you've got
money.
the public involved,
Yeah,
you're
so
held to a much higher
we
standard.
usually-
Absolutely.
We don't wanna get violation for, you know, for anything. We try to do our best.
Okay.
Excuse me, Counselor.
Sure.
Was there any information there as what was the fine or
No,
recommendation?
they just found violations, but
Is they
then.
clean it
yeah,
up?
Exactly,
They
exactly.
usually, if I show you one of the reports that we get, they usually list those things all the time. Like,
Okay.
when it comes to flies, they count more than one, if it's more than 5 flies, they write it down.
Okay.
If it's more than 10, they shut you down.
Okay,
This is what they do to us.
There's
So
nothing in any of those reports that say that we're closed down for any
no,
period of time?
no, there's nothing that says they were closed down, it's just that they indicate
They
those
corrected
issues.
immediately.
And the one thing that comes up a lot too is no soap in the toilet room. So if you're in there, chances are you're not just combing your hair. So you're gonna come out and you're gonna be preparing food and doing all that other stuff. So it's just the overall sanity, sanitation level that I have a little bit of concern with. And then, I think that that's everything that I saw with that. The only one I couldn't speak with was California. I spoke with an individual, and I don't think she's the person who handles this department, but she said to me she thought the Oakland location was closed. Is that still open?
No, still open.
Okay,
You
so
can
she
call
may
his
not have
number.
known,
His
yeah.
name is David Pulaski,
Okay.
238. Because I used to go.
That's okay, there's a call
David-
into it.
David Pulaski. That's
Okay.
the head inspector and the zoning something in California.
Okay.
He's the one who's in charge. Or you can call, hold on.
There's a Jackie Greenwood?
No, no.
Okay.
We, especially in California, they run it slightly different than New York and PA. We have Spectre at site 24/7.
Okay.
If we are custom slaughterhouse, so we have Spectre at site at all time. So no chickens go out of the shop until they get inspected. It's different. So each state they run it differently. In Philly, we get inspected every once a month. In New York, we get inspected like 6 times a month or 7 times. And
Okay.
every state is different.
Okay.
Like Connecticut, we get inspected every 3 weeks, every a month, every sometimes 2 months, depends how we doing.
Okay.
So each state is run differently. But California in particular, inspector there 24/7 every time we operate.
Mr. President, I just have one more question, if I can indulge, and I do appreciate the time from all my colleagues, thank you very much, and thank you for answering the questions. The one last question I have is, during the presentation, you were saying that the animals will be rotated, that if they're there for a week or something of that nature, and they don't sell, they'll get moved out, and then, so what happens to those, and, you know, where do they go?
What we do, the lambs and goats, we run them back to our farms because we have farms.
Mhm.
Because when they stay indoor for more than a week, they lose a lot of weight. So when they lose, because everything we sell is by the weight. So if they lose weight, we lose money.
Okay.
And, you know, a pound is $4 a pound.
Mhm.
So we have to take them back to the farms. So we bring the truck, unload the fresh things, bring the old one back in the truck, run them back to the farm, make sure they eat for a month or so, and then we send them back out.
Move them out wherever.
Move them out.
And the goats and lambs that you have, the ones that you anticipate in the Everett location, everything is enclosed, everything is penned inside, there's nothing outside?
Yes, it's everything.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
California
Thank you
number?
very much, Mr. President, my colleagues.
Councilor Mangan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, gentlemen, for appearing here tonight. I'm just going to follow up with some of the stuff that Council Capone was talking about, violations. I know one of the other ones, again, he didn't mention it, but was in the Philadelphia location as of last week, was mouse droppings. But one of the other things on there that concerns me, and this really goes to, I believe, to my colleagues, this really goes to what's happening here tonight, that work was being done and so forth without getting a permit, whether they realized it or not. On section 58 of that public health report issued by the city of Philadelphia, it says alteration of construction began prior to plan submission approval. A walk-in cooler was installed without approval. And it says that you were supposed to complete a plan review application with proper plans drawn to scale showing all design features, including all food service equipment specifications and the location of toilet rooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I can understand, maybe, I actually can't understand why, first of all, maybe you just didn't get some good advice or you got misinformation when you came here. But the fact is, if this thing has been operational in Philadelphia, and I don't know for how many years, the idea of putting something like a walk-in cooler, I mean, I think it would be common sense that you would have to go to the city and get some type of approval. So the city came in on the inspection and noticed that something else, some walk-in cooler was put in there without proper going to the city, and that was listed as one of the violations. Do you have, can you answer that, sir, as to why? In Philadelphia, and this was September 27th of last week.
Walk-in cooler?
A walk-in cooler was installed without approval. This is at the Philadelphia West Lehigh Ave, Unit B in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this was ordered by, this is by the Public Health City of Philadelphia. And there was all different violations, as you said, there's all different numbers. Item 58 on the report, as of last, whatever it was, 6 days ago, said, alteration of construction began prior to plan submission and approval. A walk-in cooler was installed without approval. A completed plan review application was needed, proper plans. So right then and there, that's a construction violation.
That place has been open since 2000, I think 10 we opened it, and it's been there, the cooler's been there since 2010. Nothing was like done as.
So you're saying
It's been there since.
So for 6 years, it took the Philadelphia to come in and recognize
And
that?
they
Talking
come
about
every 2
Philadelphia.
weeks, that's Philadelphia. But even that violation that you're talking about, I have no knowledge of it, honestly, myself.
Well,
But that's-
someone did, so that this evidently was issued to your company or somebody in your company, right?
The manager is there, but I wasn't notified about it. But this cooler in particular, this place was done, opened back in 2010. And it's been there since 2010, since day one we opened.
So this
We never-
happened, excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting. So this happened last week, 6 days ago, knowing this was all going on. And the manager of that particular address in Philadelphia, he failed to inform you that there was a possible violation with the walk-in cooler and,
But the walk-in cooler's been there for almost 6 years, since day one we opened. It's not a walk-in, it's a freezer for the waste. It's been there since day one.
okay, I just find it interesting now that,
Yeah, it's a free,
you're saying the facility in Philadelphia, but this is all I have. I mean, you have nothing,
They boo Santa Claus in Philadelphia.
I know,
What,
but
I gotta
we're
look
not
something like this.
Philadelphia. Plus, the other thing, Mr. Faris touched upon it at the beginning is, and this is, through the state of Massachusetts, and I don't know if you've read this,
Yep.
particular, does he understand this? Did these both gentlemen understand this?
111, 151?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you understand, have you both read this?
Yep.
Yes.
What the things
You,
are?
you
So you
could put
certainly
whatever, you
understand
could put
this,
whatever,
why-
you could put whatever
Right, this is
terms and
why-
conditions you want on the
Exactly.
approval. Yeah,
But
we
it
understand
basically
that.
says, no person shall occupy or use a building for carrying on the business of slaughtering cattle, horses, mules, sheep, or other animals, or for a melting or rendering establishment, or for other noxious or offensive trade and occupation, or permit or allow said trade, occupation to be carried on upon premises owned or occupied by him without first obtaining, after a public hearing has been held, thereon, the written consent permission of the mayor and the city council. So
Yep.
certainly, it doesn't stipulate anything else. I mean, I would think it gives us wide leadway. But certainly states right in here, slaughterhouses, which this is. I
Yeah.
mean, I certainly understand that's up to us, but.
Yeah. Technically, he can't operate a business until he gets a license.
Correct. But the other thing also too, at the beginning of this meeting, Council McKinnon, when he first asked questions, he asked you, sir, and he said, do you have any problems there? Do you have any situations, anything that you're aware of? And you said no. You said, no, we have no violations, we
I
have
have no
nothing, this and that.
violations.
Well, I just
And
saw one.
just to let you know, let me just show you something. I just arrived today from Miami. I was on a cruise from September 25th until yesterday, and I'll show you in emails. Hold on. Because I just came particularly, I came
Well, I
back.
know you're the owner, maybe you're the owner or the chairman of the board, whatever it is.
No, I manage all the shops. I mean, when I say that, there's managers in each shops.
Correct.
But when there's major violations happen, I have to
Oh,
be
You
confirmed.
you oversee everything.
Yes.
Right. So what I don't
But when,
understand is,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was on vacation from September 25th until today, actually.
Okay.
I'm supposed to go back to work Wednesday.
Okay.
But I just came here because of
this, right.
this particular meeting. I'll show you just, hold on, sorry to.
But as you're looking at for that, sir, the other thing is, whether this
No,
gentleman.
just to show you, because I know you're saying, oh, you wasn't informed about the violation on September 27th of
No, but I'm
last week.
saying that
But I was away, I
But
wasn't.
yeah, but I understand that, sir,
So
but that's not, I understand you're on vacation, but if you're not there, somebody else is responsible. Like I
Yeah,
said,
but
there's an
it's just-
assistant, somebody that handles that.
Yeah,
So
they're
what
gonna
I'm
have-
saying is that information, some of this other violations that, Council McKinnon raised were before, they were a couple months ago, and so these aren't like new ones. If I'm not mistaken, he raised ones that took place in the springtime and the summertime. I just happen to have the one from Philadelphia from last week. But he specifically asked you at the beginning, when he was asking his questions, was there any violations or anything that you made aware of or anything?
I wasn't aware of it because it was not sent to me as he showed you the council, was sent to whoever, I didn't even know who.
No,
who was
what
it.
I'm saying is that, but in Philadelphia, whoever the manager is in Philadelphia, when these violations took place, or when any of these other stores that the violations took, how small or big they may be,
Yeah.
at some point, you have to at least have knowledge.
Yeah, but
right?
in particular, that violation that you're talking in Philadelphia, I was away, just came back
Okay.
today.
So what and I understand maybe you can't address them now, but there was other violations that the council
Which one
Kennan
of
brought up.
All due
The only
respect.
Sir, wait, sir, excuse me, Mr. Faris, I'm still talking to this gentleman, please.
With all due respect, there's a distinction between not having hot water, hot enough.
Your mouse droppings is not?
It's not a
Don't-
violation.
don't-
It's not a violation.
Don't you,
violation?
don't you,
It's
sir,
not a violation.
don't,
This is different. This is a recommendation. They recommend you to clean it, and you have 5 days to do it. It's not a violation. There's a big difference between a violation and a recommendation. Violation, they issue
No,
a violation.
violation can
they
be
issue
issued
a
with,
violation,
excuse me,
and
sir,
they
violation
fine
can be
you.
with a written warning. Doesn't mean you
But-
have to be fined in order to be a violation. A fine, there's violations, we have those in this city, and all cities and towns have, where you can issue a violation without a fine. You can get a written warning, we have it here with code enforcement. Mr. Faris is really well known.
please,
for that.
let's not get
All right?
into code enforcement and
All right.
not,
So
not
what
having
I'm
enough,
saying, sir, is
not
that
having enough lids on,
They went and did an
on.
inspection, and they found these violations, okay? You cleaned up the violations, you addressed them, so no fine was issued, but there's still a violation.
Yeah, but when he asked me if there's any violations, we get those things, no hot water, mouse traveling, this is common thing for us. So this is something that happens once a year,
And-
once every 2 years in some of the shops, some of the neighborhood, depends on what kind of neighbor you have.
And are corrected
But it's not,
immediately.
it's not a violation. What could be a violation is, I would say, let's say, for example, the one you said in Philadelphia, that may be a violation when it
Right.
says you build a quarter, but it wasn't built. I'm trying to clarify you that quarter has been there since day one we opened. There was no major renovation was done recently in Philadelphia. The major renovation was done recently in California. You can pull out from California. The major renovation was done in New York, Queens, but now we are in the process of doing bronze building. That's about it. Everything else has been there since day one we opened. It's not new.
Excuse me, Attorney Faris,
Yeah, if I may.
your voice
just-
is not coming through in the mics.
Okay.
Please, thank
It's the first time I've heard that. Sir? Yeah, right. With regard to this cooler, don't you think that all of a sudden these things are coming up because you gentlemen are making inquiries? And then now they're going down, the inspectors are going down and saying, well, okay, there's not enough hand soap in this tray.
I don't think so.
You don't? Well, it's just curious. It's just curious that it's all September 27th.
I'll prove you wrong there, because.
I don't
we had a
know.
meeting-
I'm
we
just
had a
asking.
meeting-
I'm just
We had
asking.
a meeting last Monday night.
Yeah.
This inspection took place on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So who relayed this information to
I don't know.
Philadelphia the very next day to go down there? I think it's preposterous to
Really?
say that somebody went down there. Yeah. I think
Whatever, I'm
it's-
not saying somebody went down there, but
Well,
actually,
you made
you're,
the accusation up. Don't you think
Well-
these inspections are going on because now it's being brought up? You just made a
yes,
point.
yes, I do.
So you're
Yes.
telling me the day after we had our meeting, somebody went down in North
Yes.
Philadelphia and went down and made sure that they went in and inspected it?
Yes, because you're inquiring if there are already violations there. So they went down to inspect to see if there are violations.
Okay,
And
most of
they
us-
come up and say, yeah, there's no hand soap.
And most
The
of
hot
us
water,
didn't
the
know.
hot water.
This wasn't something that was floated out there. This came in front of us last week, and it was the first time it was even debated.
Okay, okay.
I'm all set, Mr.
Okay.
President, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, I'm all set.
you very much. Councilor DePiero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Musid, at the beginning of this meeting, you said you were unaware of any issues with the permitting and construction work being done at the site, correct?
Yes.
So on July 27th, you did not meet with Mr. Lane?
Mr. Lane?
Yes, George, that you referred to
George.
him as.
Well, when I came here, I came to the city hall so I could file the building permit, and so I could continue with the job. Because from day one, when I come, it was like I was like just lost in this city hall. Everywhere I go, they said, "Yo, you're okay. Just you're gonna need the license from the health." I go to the health. You don't need the license from me. You need from the clerk office. Then go to the building department, and it's the state. So I was like at one point I was like some sort of lost, and then and you could ask if was Mr. Michael, but he was from the clerk office, but he's out sick today. That's the last time when I had like going up and down, and then they were searching, and I don't know who sent this, the letter from the state. They said, well, he gotta have to have this, public hearing before he continue or
But
start
aside
doing
from
anything.
all that, just the work itself that you were found in violation for.
I tried to correct it, so that's why I came. I'm trying to, have the permit, have everything right, and get the permit, pay whatever fees are required, continue with the work as far as dividing the rooms, the processing rooms, and at the site.
Because from what he has said, that he's made some inquiries as to who did the work, who was the contractor, what's going to be done to correct the illegal work, and he is still awaiting that information from you.
I'm working on it. He told me or asked me for a structure engineer. I hired a structure engineer. He did his calculations on the floor and all of that, and I submitted to them at the building department. They have the report there, and the structure engineer a letter or what they call it, affidavit letter, I believe. That's what they call it, affidavit letter from the structure engineer, saying that yes, this floor is up to code and is gonna hold up, whatever weight that is supposed to be there.
Until it was actually measured, though, and it was
Yeah.
6 inches, not 4.
We did measure it, and that was what I call it, like about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So after I have this structure engineer, hiring this structure engineer to come to the facility and did all the calculations. After that, they said they're not satisfied, and they want to cut piece of the concrete and bring it here. So I did cut it, bring it here. They did their calculation. They said they want another 8 pieces to cut from the concrete. I said, come on, this is like we kind of like a cake. But I said, it's okay, I'll do it. But I was away, we had our holiday, so I was busy myself down in Connecticut. So I didn't get to finish, whatever they asked him for. Because to me, what I want to do is just to follow all the city rules and regulations. And if there's a violation, I'll correct it. And if there's a fee, I'll pay it if I have to.
Because he's been waiting 2 months for it to be corrected, though, and no
I
action.
won't say it's 2 months, but lately
Since
I was.
July 27th, when you met with him.
We stopped everything because they said we have to come to the board first. So
And-
we don't want to waste any money in the building or
that's true.
permits,
Okay,
because
I
like, for
understand that.
example, the engineer, he wanted down payment at least 10,000. The architectural work we started, we put down almost 2,500. Until you guys, they says we have to come to you, so we freezed everything. We told them to hold on to everything because we don't want to invest money into it. We even hold on into the rent now, because our rent is almost 8,000 with taxes and everything. So we don't want to be spending money and come to you and you guys.
I understand that, sir, but at the beginning, if you went through the site process and the review, you wouldn't run into that trouble. You wouldn't have expended all this extra money.
That's the
Being
that's the
the
thing.
circumstance.
I'm sorry. That's the thing when I tried to come here and try to get the proper licensing, I was just basically like running around. I don't know who to talk to. And every person that I talked to here in the city hall, they said, "Oh, well, we don't know about this business. As far as the zoning, you're fine, and you didn't need like a license as like the health, the city health. I don't, as they told me, I'm not required to have a license from them. It's from the state
It's only from the agriculture.
and from the agro and from the OSDA. So
building
is
issues, Councilor McKinnon at the beginning of the meeting asked about any health violations in other locations, and obviously it was unbeknownst to you because you were on your vacation. You can brush those off as minor health violations, but
It's
there's
not-
still
it's-
health violations, sir.
it's
And
not.
to make recommendations, something needs to be wrong. They don't just recommend that you have issues if there's not an issue there.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it
and-
wasn't, it's not what I meant by that when he asked me.
You said you have no health issues, not at all.
There is no health issue. whatsoever.
There's
I
a whole
still
list of
repeat-
violations, sir.
Those they call them as like minor,
This
and they
is what
correct it
I-
immediately.
It may be minor to you, but it's not minor to me,
So
sir.
you might, it might be a violation to you, but to us it's not a violation. Because this is, you dealing with
Well, that's a
lifestyle.
matter of opinion.
Yeah, it just, but it's not a violation.
I think we're starting off on the wrong foot here as neighbors. I'm having a hard time believing a lot of the information you're providing us, and I apologize to Attorney Faris, but I think a lot of information was left out conveniently from your clients.
It's frustrating when you say that is a violation because they don't have enough hand soap in a bathroom. Tell me one violation that you have there, that any of the product was tainted.
Mice droppings, flies, you're talking about fresh meat.
Sir, you get that everywhere. You go to Stop and Shop down here, happy
Doesn't mean
inspectors
it's
go in.
okay.
Well, you have to have an opportunity to correct it if something happens.
I understand that.
They give them a warning, they tell them to fix it, and they fix it.
There's just a lot of lack of communication going on, and
Well,
I'm having a hard
yeah,
time believing a
well,
lot of it. I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Napolitano.
Thank you. All right. Please try to understand, in our experience here, in most cases when situations arise regarding permitting, many of us have seen an example where businesses or homeowners come in, spend the money first, and try to use that to leverage getting a permit. I'm not accusing you of that, but you have to understand, our collective experience is that we see that more than not. So you could understand why we'd be a little apprehensive when we hear that you dropped $50,000 on a piece of property without going through the proper licensing. Now, I understand the explanation about how your experience in other areas are going to be going into to propel this business in a successful manner. But what about the experience that you've developed in setting these businesses up? I'm sure this is not your first permitting experience. You said, how many locations do you have altogether?
10.
You have 10 locations. Each and every one of those locations, you had to go through some form of approval process, correct?
What we do, let me tell you how we do it, and each state is different. So what we do, we usually go, first step, we go to zoning. If they permit us to do it, then we go to the health department. And if the health department approve it, then we go to agriculture. And then if the agriculture approve, then we go to USDA. And this is the steps we did here too.
Okay,
The
but
first thing before I even looked at the building or something, I went to the zoning and I asked for what kind of zoning code I should look for to do custom slaughterhouse. They told me the codes that necessarily need to be looked for, so I was working, my nephew was working with a couple of real estate guys. They looked at a couple locations, many locations. It's been over a year we've been looking at locations. So every location we have almost an agreement with the owner. We usually go back to the zoning and ask them, is this okay with you? And after we get the okay from the zoning, then we lease the property. This is what we did here.
Right. But
And
that
the
doesn't,
deal-
that's
the-
not
the-
exactly answering my question.
Okay, but-
My question is, let me rephrase it.
Okay.
How many states are you conducting?
4 states.
4 states. Are the processes in all 4 states identical?
Yes.
Exactly the same?
No, it's not exactly the same.
That's what I asked.
Uh,
So the thing is, you've learned from your experience that in each location, it's important to understand all the particulars
Yes.
and all the nuances of the laws
Yes.
prior to spending any money and building.
So what we,
How is this situation different then?
because we thought it's only the zoning we need to get approval from. We don't know we have to go, there is a law in Massachusetts here that we have to go in front of the board. Like, for example, California, from day one, I went to the zoning, they told me you have to go through the public hearing. So I did not lease a place, I did not do anything until I get all I make a deal with the owner of the building that I have to go through public hearing. I'm not gonna give you any money, I'm gonna put everything in escrow until I get the final approval from the zoning. So that's what I end up doing. I did not, everything we put in escrow with the owner. I get the zoning approval, I get the public hearing, I went through everything. So after that, then I released all the fund to him. But here's different. They told me it's okay from day one. They did not tell me I had to call to you guys.
But at this point, you had not had any type of formal process?
Right now, to do it here?
No, up to the point where you discovered that you needed to come before us. See, the reason why the law is written to give us the authority to be able to make this decision is because the 11 of us represent a population of 45,000 plus people in a very small strip of land. Everett's only about 2¼ miles long, 3/4 mile wide roughly. We're a very concentrated city, okay? And something like this affects everybody.
You're right.
So that's the reasoning behind it. Now, on that same process, you know, we're talking about, you know, just to piggyback on some of the answers from my colleagues here, you know, you're looking at processing about 200 chickens per day.
Yes,
You're looking at getting shipments of about 100 to 400 chickens,
yes,
about 5 to 6 goats.
yes.
How are the byproducts disposed of? Now, I understand you're storing them in freezers.
Yes, and
Okay, we're talking blood, we're talking entrails,
Yes.
we're talking heads for the chickens, we're talking hides on the lambs and the goats. How often, when they're stored in the freezer, how often is that picked up and how is that disposed of?
All right, the way it goes is like, depends how busy we are. Let's say, and I'll give you an example. For example, Brooklyn, we get recycle company called Darling International. That company collect our waste. Actually, we sell it to them. They recycle it. They do oil from it. I don't know what they do with this. So the blood, the way we contain the blood, we put it in 5-gallon buckets, and they come and collect it. The bones, the feathers, the fats, all contained in those containers that you see in the pictures, and get stored in the freezer. So they comes every night and collect it. If it's slow, so they comes 3 times a week.
I just want to be clear. You're saying is that they're picked up nightly?
Night, everything night time. Nothing in the
At
day.
your other locations?
Yes.
How often would they be picked up here in Everett?
Depends how busy we are. If it's
Well, it actually depends on the waste
What
company.
would be the longest?
the longest, no more than 2 days. No more than 2 days to stay in the freezers.
And blood, we're not going to find blood in the sewer systems?
No. We contain, if you look at the picture, there's a holding tank.
Oh, I saw that,
Yes.
And that's holding tank is primarily for poultry?
Yes.
What about lambs and goats? They're a little bigger.
They have a similar holding tank. This is slightly different because it's like a V shape, and it's like a bucket under it when you slaughter it. And also by the end of the waistline, let's say for the whole building, there is a grease trap and holding tank.
Okay. Well, the only other thing, I appreciate the information. The only other thing is that, I mean, we've given the impression in the initial presentation tonight that we could expect a higher standard when it comes to cleanliness, hygiene, keeping the product to a standard that meets the religious needs of the consumers who will be purchasing it. I think you can understand when we're led to believe that there's going to be a higher standard, why there'd be concerns about hand soap in the toilet. State of Massachusetts, all employees are required to wash their hands. If there's no soap, you don't wash your hands.
Yeah, but
If the water's not hot, no, see, again, we're talking bacteria, we're talking about cleanliness, we're talking about hygiene. And we're also talking about maintaining the standard that you're representing, that you need to maintain for your consumers.
Yes,
To
you're right.
be able to match their religious needs.
Yes.
You know, that's a cause for concern. Because if, on one hand, yes, you're following every ritual you need to be able to, you know, properly process, you know, the animal, and yet the guy who's processing it didn't have any soap to wash his hands, aren't you defeating the whole purpose of this? See, this is where these concerns and these violations come in. Yes, it's one thing to have a violation where somebody comes in and says, you need to have this cleaned up in a couple of days. I've worked in the restaurant industry years ago, but the bottom line is that this is where their concerns are.
Let me, let's say, for example, the soap situation. There's like, if you get a violation for the soap, you have to correct it right there and then. If not, you have to stop the whole operation and you get fined for it. So for not having a soap, the inspector have to write it down, but you have to have it before he even leave the bathroom. you have to have it. If not, you have to shut down. Let's say,
I
let's
understand,
say
but how
if-
many days can go by between inspections where the soap may not have been there? See, that's the cause for concern.
It
See, the
doesn't-
fact that you're identifying the problem and correcting it immediately
Yeah.
doesn't negate the possibility that the violation could have existed for days, or as you said, when inspectors come in on a monthly basis, weeks. And
what-
again,
what-
these are our concerns.
What we do is, like in our facilities, we usually every morning, because let's say we open at 8, but no customer shows until 10 o'clock. So we have 2 hours, we usually make sure everything is there, make sure there's soap, make sure there's napkins, make sure it's clean, make sure everything is good. You know, there's mistakes happen. I'm not saying we don't, like, we 100%, but it doesn't stay more than a couple, let's say if it doesn't stay like 2 or 3 days, like with the soap situation, maybe hour, maybe so. If let's say customers went in and used the soap and it's finished, but if it's an employee, he'll make sure that there is a soap there.
I'm just, again,
And also, not only that, we have 2 different bathrooms, one for the employees, one for the one for the public. It might happen in the public bathroom or the employee bathroom.
the violation would be
They
in the
either or.
public bathroom, either or?
If there is, if they see it in, if they don't see it in any bathroom, they'll give you, they're not gonna give you a violation, they'll tell you you have to do it, right?
But you're managing a business that's open to the public.
Yes.
That means being prepared to be in compliance and cater to that public when you open those doors.
Yeah, we like any other businesses, like if you go now to McDonald's, if you Google McDonald's across anywhere around the block, you'll see there is some issues with soap sometimes. Even Burger King, even no matter where you go.
But it doesn't make
what-
it right.
It's
That's
not,
the
I'm
point.
not trying to make myself right, but it's something that happened to everybody, it's not only me. It's not.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but again, if you're gonna present yourself as being adhering to a higher standard, then expect to be held to that standard.
Yes.
Because on the other hand, where you're saying that in some cases a place, a McDonald's may need soap, or this, that may be there, and these little violations, what if the prayer is not spoken correctly? What if the slip of the knife is not exactly right and causes some pain to the animal? See, it's the same standard that I'm referring to.
Yes, you're right.
That's where we have concerns.
That's why we have the customer get to see the whole process from A to Z. So they are their own inspector. If they see anything is not right, they're not gonna come to us, they're not gonna buy it from us. That's why we have it all glass, just for the customer to inspect the whole process.
Again, not to go back, nobody's watching the employee wash his hands behind glass. Thank you.
Excuse me, Peter.
Councilor McLaughlin.
If I might, I think somebody had raised that there was work being done inside. I do have a photograph if you gentlemen want to see it. I don't think any of you ever been in it. There's the paint job.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I do pose, I actually do want to ask one last question, and then I will let the floor. Again, I had meant to ask this when we were, I was looking at the point earlier.
Okay.
It was raised at the last meeting that $50,000 has been spent in advance of learning licensing. Exactly what was the $50,000 spent on?
For deposits and rents, and also we give him up money to clean up the place, like because the guy doesn't have enough money, so we told him to clean, because there was a lot of cleaning. So we came up with a money up front for him to do all the cleanup, and then we'll cut it from the rent as we go.
How much of that is in escrow currently, or has it all been spent?
Can we come back and how much we have in this overtime? About 30 something.
So,
Yeah, it's about 30 something left, but this.
So if we break it down, there's 30,000 in escrow, which pending approval,
So what
or
we-
not approval, you'll get back. So actually, in actual spending,
No,
it's
no,
roughly with
it's
20,000?
not, it wasn't held like that, because when we went to the zoning, we thought we already done, it's done
No,
deal.
I realize that, but it was presented to us last week that $50,000 was spent.
It's already spent, we can't get it back.
Escrow money can't become back?
No, because it was like, it's like an advance rent, like for.
No, I'm familiar with it, I'm
Yeah.
actually from the banking world.
Yeah.
So, no, that's not my point. The point is that originally you said the money goes into escrow, if you don't get approved for the licenses, then it's not money spent.
Yeah, but
Now you're
this-
saying something different.
No, when I don't say nothing. But what I said is like, when we gave him the money, we thought, we did not write in the lease that if we didn't get the approval, because we were thinking we really have the okay from the zoning. That's what we were concerned about, just the zoning.
All right, that clears up the
Yeah.
question I had in mind.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin.
I would like to thank Mr. Faris, because I know the city council is great, Mr. Faris, but we can't call Philadelphia overnight and get an inspection in the morning. If we could, that'd be amazing. So that argument really is,
I'm sure you can do amazing things.
we try up here, Mr. Faris, but that is a little out of reach. Section 3, in the same inspection that Councilor Mangan spoke about on September 27th, just last week. Section 3, food safety certified person does not have knowledge of reportable foodborne illnesses. A read of materials was issued. So there was a violation found and read of material was issued because does not have knowledge of reportable foodborne illnesses. The food safety certified person in section 3 of your inspection. So there's somebody working for you that doesn't know the difference between the foodborne illnesses that need to be reported. That's what it said. And there was read of materials issued. I don't know, again, you may have been on vacation, you may not have seen this
Okay.
report, but this again is from the city of Philadelphia, issued on September 27th, just last week. There are several issues that my colleagues have spoken about, but nobody brought up that one issue, which is section 3, third
All right,
point.
which is like in, they usually, what we do, we have a label that describe how to handle the chicken after you leave the shop. That's what they meant by that.
For the
It's just like
customers.
how, what, it tells the customers how they should freeze it, where they should, you know, and how they should cook it and all that, give them instruction.
But obviously, the city of Philadelphia was concerned by the fact that the food safety certified person was not knowledgeable on foodborne illnesses, and read of material was issued. So there are employees that are not informed on a very serious matter that could cause serious health risk or serious
I'm
health
not sure what
issues.
you meant by that, honestly.
Okay, no, but, you know, again, we can only go by what we have. I've never
Yeah,
been to
and
Philadelphia,
the
I
only-
don't
the
know your
only
facility.
thing- The only thing I know in Philadelphia that they require us and they force it and they write a violation for it. If you don't have the label, you just explain to the customer
Abdul?
what they're getting, and this is the label exact. Sorry, let me just.
Go ahead.
This is what they, yeah, this is the label.
This is supposed to be
Yeah,
given
that's-
to
like,
every
it's not-
customer before they leave the place.
It's not enforceable only in New York and PA.
That's
but,
federal.
You know, by federal law. This is exactly, I think, what they were talking
So-
about. So what they usually do, inspectors, sometimes they ask the workers' questions, it's like, did you explain it to the customers? Like, sometimes the workers don't speak English, so there's a lack of.
But
Again,
this,
when you're
this
dealing
does,
with health,
I'm just,
I'm
I'm
sure,
not-
I
I'm not
understand,
saying
but when
it
you're
is.
dealing with health concerns, you want to have somebody on the premises that isn't going to cause an outbreak and a health risk for the city and the state. And that definitely is a violation that I'm very concerned by. A couple of questions that I have, and I had a lot of them, but most of my colleagues asked them. Councilor Capone spoke about the whole process, when the customer walks through the door to the point that the customer walks out of the door. If a customer picks out a particular chicken, and as he's following the steps through the process, as you said, he disagrees with the way something is handled. He disagrees with the fact that there's soap in the sink. He
Yes.
disagrees. What happens with the animal that has now been killed, has been slaughtered? What happens to that animal?
It gets thrown into the garbage because nobody will buy it from us.
supposed.
Disposed
Disposed, how is that disposed?
to the garbage.
So you throw,
Yeah, put it in those containers.
Yeah. But the way, that's why we have the cashier in the end. The customer doesn't pay until he get the chicken in his hand. So he see the whole process. If he disagree with anything, he's not gonna pay the money. That's why we don't let them pay up front. They pay in the end, as soon as they exit.
Okay.
So, and if, then they choose another one. If they decide they're not happy with it, there is a complaint number to the health department that we usually have it in all our facilities. Is like they can complain to the health department and report the issue to them.
but, so then we're particularly killing an animal for no reason at that point, because somebody disagrees with
That's
the
why-
way,
yes.
so it's sort of an animal cruelty issue at that point, because you're killing animals for no reason, if somebody disagrees with it. I don't know how often that may happen, but if
It
there's
happens,
violations that we
it
see in
happens.
Philadelphia.
I'm not saying it happens, sometimes the customers come, we slaughter the chicken for them, they're not happy the way was handled. So they either they walk away or they get another chicken. That chicken gets thrown into the garbage. It's like any business. When you go to Walmart and pick up a product and you go home and you don't like it, you return it back. They're not going to put it back in the shelf. Sometimes they just
Those are like kitchen and
defective.
food.
They send it back to the mail.
Okay. I have an issue with that, but I'll accept the answer. Mr. President, may we invite up Lou Staffieri from the Board of Health?
After we release them, I don't want to bring them all up at once because we're going back and forth, so you can get them in a while.
Oh, okay, because I believe that you guys had a meeting with the health inspector in the city, and he may have told you very early on what the process was. Now, if that's not the case, I'd like to hear from the health inspector's opinion. I'm under the understanding that you guys knew well in advance from another location that you were looking at, not this location, but from another location that you were looking at, that there was going to be this process that was going to need to be had before anything started in the process. The health inspector, I'm going to bring up the health inspector to have a conversation with him, and you guys can hear the conversation at that point. I'll yield the floor until we're invited.
Councilor Delasola.
Good evening, guys. I'm listening to all this. I had a lot of questions. My colleagues asked them, and you did answer them. One question I have was, on the packaging, once you get to the cash register, you want that chicken, how are they carrying that out? What is that wrapped in? How is it?
It's wrapped in a clear bag. It's not recycled bags, it's a clear bags.
Like sealed?
It's sealed, yes.
All right. And the other thing was, listening to all this, and no disrespect to anybody, if you were, this was only your first, I'll call it a slaughterhouse, first slaughterhouse or your second slaughterhouse, I can understand some of the questions that we're asking, that I'm not gonna say beating around the bush on the answers, we're not getting our answers, but you have 9 or 10 locations in different states. And you would think by now, you'd have everything in a rhythm. If you went to Philadelphia or New York, or wherever you go with your stores, by the time you come here, you should have this thing. I wouldn't spend $1 in the building until I knew 100%. I went through all the steps to get the building and hire an attorney and do all this. It's just, I have too many questions and doubts in my mind, personally, to have this on the Parkway, and no disrespect to any religion, I just don't feel comfortable having it down there. It's just my opinion. I do have other questions for our department heads that are involved in this. So, go ahead.
You don't want it in the back way. They have it, we have it like, they have it here in downtown Boston. They have them, we have them in New York City, right? And there's like apartments on top of us, and we have downstairs. There's apartment beside us. We have it in apartment building, those slaughterhouses. It's not like here is we looked at it and we went to the zoning and they told us it's okay. That's why we went and signed the lease and the agreement between us and the owner.
But to go ahead and put money into it, $50,000 between the rent and the work, and after opening up 9 or 10 businesses, you had no idea that it had to come to the council?
No.
So all your other businesses that you opened up already, you never had to go to a council?
No, we did. Like, we went Philadelphia, because what we do, we usually go, it's like, I'll repeat it again. We usually go to the zoning. The zoning, they tell us where to go. They tell us it's okay. If they give us the approval, then after the zoning, we go to the health department. And if they give us the okay, then we go to the agriculture department. And if the agriculture department gives us the okay, then the USDA. So there's four things that we do. We do zoning, health department, agriculture, and USDA. And this is what we did here. Nobody told us that we have to go through, like, where we were looking in East Haven, I believe.
Connecticut?
Connecticut, and they tell us we have to go in front of the board, so we end up not doing it. Here, like, we went to different towns, I mean, different, actually, the other, I don't know the names of the towns, the one who's done, I'm sorry to do that.
It's okay.
What was it? They told us we have to go.
You know the new market? They call the new,
In that city?
the city of Boston.
Boston, like, some
The
of
new
this-
market.
The marketplace?
Yeah, the new marketplace, I think that's what they call it.
Produce center.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, anyways.
It's a big, area.
Some of the
That's what we try.
cities like in New York, we have Brooklyn, Queens is different rules and regulations. So we're trying to see which one is the safest and easiest ways to do it. So we try to avoid public hearing, because when you bring it to the public hearing, people just it's so hard for us to explain to them what we're doing, and it's so hard for them to accept it, because it doesn't, no matter how we do it, until they see it with their own eyes, they cannot understand it. It doesn't go to their heads. Even, when I started the first business, it did not go to my head myself. It is usually sometimes, when you see it, it's different than when I explained it to you, or when I tried to persuade you to agree to it. It's completely different. But when you go to the facility itself, it will make a big difference for you guys. That's why we provide you with videos. I want you to look at it, and you will understand the whole thing what we're doing.
See, like, we're trying to, everything's changing, obviously, about the casino and hotels going on the Parkway and everything. We're trying to change the look of the Parkway and all of Everett. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, this might have went through, no problem at all. But it's just changing now that with the questions we have and everything that's going on, it's just, like I said, I don't want to beat him on the bush on this, but it's just putting doubt in my mind personally on what's going on here. But I'll leave it. I have questions, like I said earlier, the department heads involved here, and I'll yield the floor to the president.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Matusky?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been doing some time checks here. Councilor Faris gave a 25-minute presentation at the beginning of this committee meeting. So far, the council members have spoken about an hour and a half. There were a lot of people in this chamber, Mr. Chairman. This question is to you. I'd like to hear what the people that are here in this chamber feel about this company coming into this community. They're here, they've been reading about it in the paper. It's my understanding it's all over the internet. There were people here over the age of 80 here tonight. I walked in with a woman. I want to hear what she has to say. I know how I'm voting on this, sir, and this is nothing against any religion. We have over 100 churches in this city, 100. There was a few churches that had chickens in their basement at one time, and the Board of Health corrected that situation. We are the most diverse community in the whole state, just so you'll know. I want to make a perfect, no, but your attorney raised the question of religion. We are very respectful to one another in this small community of ours. This is no reflection on the Muslim community or any other religion. I want you to know that. I live 3 blocks away from this building, okay? Most of my life.
Neighbor then.
Well, I hope not, to be honest with you. The mosque I can deal with. No, that's nothing personal. But I'll tell you the truth, the more I think about it, I don't know where you live, and I'm not going to go to New York or Philadelphia, sir, that you invited me to go to tonight to check out your operation. That is not going to happen. I, as a city councilman, and all of us have to make a decision about this issue. I made up my mind at the last meeting. There was members here that wanted to hear your side of your operation. This gentleman did come here very respectfully. But you know, I'm a quick-witted person. I think I can make my mind up with common sense what we're trying to do in that neighborhood you're going. The man that was there, the owner of the machine shop, was there for 50 years. And I'm amazed how well you cleaned it out. I saw the picture tonight. Looks like a completely different operation. But you have to understand, we're being fair to you tonight. If I had a vote at the last meeting, we only lost by 1 vote, just so you'll know. So you've got to convince some other people. I can't be convinced, sir. We have a law being passed that's on the ballot, I understand, to have cage-free eggs. Do you realize that?
Yes.
So there is a concern for animal rights at this point, all over the state and this country. Now, let me just say this. Before you got you haven't got a building permit, have you? No.
I'm not doing it. We stopped.
Okay, well, you did clean it up. You were anticipating getting the license.
Yes.
I understand that.
Okay.
But the thing is, you put the cart before the horse. Okay, you really did.
Yeah, because we were, you know, we went to the zoning and they told us it's okay, they did not tell us we have to go to the zone, to you guys.
Wherever you went in this building, they're pretty cooperative, okay? We have a lot of things happening here. We've got hotels being built just a block away from you. People spending millions of dollars, the old Market Forge. That was an old factory. We have scrap yards, hopefully they'll be moving out of here. That whole complexion will be changing, you understand? This isn't something, it sounds, a lot of people like gourmet food and so forth, and they go out of their way to shop at your store. But, you know, I hope you can find another location. You know, this isn't a personal thing with me. It's the direction of this community, a positive direction. We've had auto body shop issues, odors and smells and noise, you name it, especially where I live. And some of my colleagues, you know, the city is small, as this councilman stated. It's 3.5 square miles and less than that. We have to live together. We're moving forward here.
We have a point of order. We can ask questions, or Mr.
No,
Matusky's going to pontificate to
Council,
us.
let me just say this and I'll finish
Please.
up. It seems like the only good thing you did, and I don't want to be blunt, is hire attorney for Reese. He's one of the leading attorneys in the state. That's probably the best thing you've done. Now, if you go to court, I'm going to suggest, Mr. President, that we list some of the reasons. And I want to hear, if it's okay with the membership, I want to hear what the reasons of the people in this chamber, how they feel. They live here too. They got a say in this. I don't want to, you know, my own opinion is one thing. I'm going by common sense, sir. My common sense tells me that it's not the right fit for what's happening on the Revere Beach Parkway. Okay? Nothing again. I've never met you in my life.
I do respect you, sir.
You have a good lawyer, and if you go to court, sir, and you win, well, that's because you hired somebody that knows what they're doing.
I'm gonna do what I have to do.
That's right. But I guess I can end my comment, but I would say this, Mr. President, in fairness to the people that are here, and for those who may want to vote for this, I think it'd be in your best interest to hear what these people say. I've never received so many phone calls about this issue. And I was going to suggest at the last meeting that we list the reasons why we're going to deny this petition. And there's a lot of them. Your track record isn't that great in Philadelphia. I just read a report that just came out a couple of days ago. But as I said, you know, this isn't about religion. This isn't about personalities or anything like that. This is about the future of our city. It may not be the right, it is not the right fit, I don't believe. So I'm sorry that I feel this way to, you know, I've done this to other businesses that I don't feel, and recently we had another issue up here with the telephone pole. A company wanted to come in here and put a radar thing in front of somebody's house. It goes on and on. The Wild West days are over in Everett. It's gone with me. Thank you.
Excuse me, Wayne, are there really 100 churches in Everett?
Round one,
At least 100 churches.
How many mosques?
Councilor Simonelli.
Well, there's a couple, there's one on Chelsea Street that I know of.
I'm
There's
just
one
asking.
down on Post Street.
You're more learned than I am in it, so that's why I'm
Well, I'm
asking.
finding these things out as I go along. Thank you.
Councilor Simonelli.
Madam President, no.
His final answer is no.
All right, thank you, Councilor.
I don't understand. What is it?
That
His
concludes round
final
one of
answer is
questioning.
no.
We're about to start round two. Councilor DeFlorio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mike?
I want you to understand that when I said we don't base it on religion, what I'm saying is I wasn't going to let religion detour me. We have the citizens of Everett, and I did receive a lot of calls. But this does have to go to a public hearing. So we will have the chance for the people in the cities to speak, okay? But this is what we make our decisions on. Unfortunately, I respect your religion. I know about your religion. Now, you also said that you own the farm. So,
Sorry?
you own the farm where the animals come from?
Yes, not all of them, but
Not all, okay.
like some of them we contract the Amish to raise the chickens for us. Some of them we own them.
Okay, because as far as ordering, I mean, we have our religion also, and I come from a foreign country where we have lamb every Easter, and I do order a fresh lamb. Now, if you say you're owning the farm, and I understand your religion, and I respect it, and you spend all this money on this building, why can't you have more of a butcher shop where the animal gets killed at the farm? So your people come in, it's gonna get killed the right way because you own the farms. It's your religion that owns the farm.
No, you can't do it at the farms. You cannot process the chickens where you grow them.
Okay,
You're not allowed to do that by law.
all right. The other question is, where are you gonna put the feces of the chickens and the goats and the lambs?
What is it?
Where are you gonna store the feces when you clean out the
Garbage.
trays?
Oh, the garbage. We have the company that collect all that, because we deal with two companies. One is a garbage company, one is a recycle company. The recycle company that collect the bones, the fats, and the blood. And
Okay.
we have a company that collect the waste of the chickens, if there is papers, bags, if there is,
Hide.
anything.
Where do you store it in the meantime? How often does this company come out to collect the feces?
As I said before, it depends how busy we are. If it's a busy place, we do it every day, every night. If it's a slow place, no more than 2 days.
I come from a country where there are goats, there are lambs, and I still remember it, and chickens. The feces smells very, very bad.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so my question to you is, are you gonna store it inside, or are you gonna store it outside?
Inside, nothing outdoor. Everything inside the freezer.
The feces also goes in the freezer?
Yes, everything in the freezers. And also, we have in our facilities the fans that, when it sucks the air, it has recycled and becomes fresh air as it goes out. It's like what they do with the high-rise buildings when they do the restaurants. This is the kind of exhaust fans we use.
Okay,
Councilor Buchanan?
thank you.
Through you, Mr. President, to the gentleman and the attorney here. Sir, what's your title?
Manager.
You're the manager of what?
Actually, let me just make it feel easy. We are 9 brothers.
No, don't make it easy,
I'm
make it hard.
I'm just trying to tell you how we operate. That way you understand how we operate. We 9 brothers and about 23 nephews. We all work in sections. Let's say, for example, Bilal is managing this section, which is Connecticut, and wherever we open it.
So it's like a specialty, your...
It's specialty. So we work together as a teamwork. We all managers, put it this way.
So everybody's a manager. Okay, so...
Everybody works.
All right. And, sir, what's your title? You're a manager too?
See?
Okay. All right, so I'm assuming everybody's well-educated here, everybody knows
Yeah.
what time it is, what's going on here and everything like that, right?
Yes.
So when I asked you earlier, right at the beginning, I think it was, if there was any violations, and you said no, you knew there was violations and you just chose to say
No.
no.
I'm gonna say it again. I don't know how you say in the violations, but if it's to me, I'll say no. But you seen this as a violation, but I don't see it a violation. But especially that violation that was issued to.
There's been violations across these states that your company's on.
They recommendations.
The recommendations
They're
are
not
violations.
violations.
Okay.
You can even call them and ask how often do they, you can even ask the health department here how they
Okay.
operate.
I mean,
and they'll-
for us to actually, well, that would probably have been early on in our conversation when I first started. You could have said, no, they were recommendations, not violations. Correct?
maybe wrong, yes.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, you, sir, said that you knew nothing about a violation on the building, right?
I didn't.
You didn't know about that?
No.
This is the first time you're hearing about it?
Yes.
You never heard from a Mr. George down at your place there, that you had a cement truck come in, painted
I
red floors?
didn't know about the this violation, but when I came and
Did-
tried, About this paper?
You
This
didn't know
paper?
that you
thi-
didn't have to get a permit?
This paper, I haven't seen it before. It's the first
Okay.
time
So this
I've
is
seen
the
it.
first time you've
If-
seen this paper?
Yes.
Okay, but
If-
you knew
if
about the
I'm-
violations. Why then did you bring back concrete for them to check out?
Because they
You knew
asked,
nothing about any violations, no permitting, no nothing. You brought concrete back for them to check out. Why?
they asked me for,
We're all smart people here. Why did you do that?
they asked me, they want to approve this, concrete. They want me to approve
Prove
this.
concrete for what? You didn't do anything down there.
They want to see if
You
it's
said you
up
didn't
to
do anything
code.
down there, right?
They want to see if it's up to
There was
code.
no building, no permitting, no nothing for that, but then you were gonna bring back concrete for them to come and check out. Why?
If-
Let me just
I'm
say.
not getting it,
Let me
so
just
please
say,
under-
let me just say
make
it.
sure
If-
he understands.
Let me just say it here. As I told you before, we are responsible for the building from September 1st and up. Anything prior to that is the owner problem, because it's the deal that the way we constructed the deal between us and.
But sir, I understand where you're going with this, okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, why would you bring back concrete to City Hall to show an inspector if you knew that it wasn't okay? Can you answer that?
Yeah, the inspector asked him to do it, and he complied. It's that simple.
Okay, but did he know that he didn't have a permit to do that?
No, that's the problem.
Well, I think he
That's the
knew.
problem.
That
Well,
is
that's
the
what you
problem.
think.
I think
We
he
can get the
knew.
gentleman here
We're gonna
saying
hear
he did
testimony-
not
We're gonna
know.
hear testimony from
That's
our
okay.
department
Let's-
heads, and then they're gonna
sure,
come in.
okay.
I understand,
Excellent.
sir, you know, and I have respect for you, big respect now, you know that. So, what I'm saying is, I understand it's your client, but I think there's either a lack of communication going on maybe, or, maybe some, half-truths being said here?
I think it's more of trying to come before this board without having a lawyer. You come
No,
before this board
it's
without having a
probably-
lawyer, this is what happens. You come before this board with a lawyer who knows what they're doing, then they correct any problems that might exist.
Well, that's not
No
what
member
we're
of this,
hearing.
no
Sir,
member of this board ever approached my clients and say, what about this? What about this violation? What does this cost? What-
That's-
I mean,
that-
that is.
no member of this
no,
board should
that-
have to do
That's
that.
ambush.
It should,
That's
no, it's
ambush.
not. It should be up to the
That's
client,
ambush.
your client, to come and actually say, wow,
Well,
at our
if,
ISD
if,
department,
if
what is
you,
going
if you
on here,
think
sir?
not having soap in the sink
That's a
is
violation.
is a major
No, but it's a
violation.
violation.
We have it in every room.
That
that's
that
all.
is a violation.
We have
Attorney,
soap
that's a
in every room.
violation. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree with that statement, because that is a violation.
Okay.
If you're in a
Okay.
different state, that's
Well,
fine.
we may have to have somebody else higher than us who gets paid a
Absolutely.
lot more money than I get paid to decide that.
Absolutely.
But I
A guy with a
suggest.
robe on, hopefully.
That's right. All right.
But, well, what my question is now is this. So if we get a half-truth here, we get a half-truth here, which I'm seeing. We're saying we have 100 to 400 chickens down there, 5 lambs and 6 goats. Who's to say they're gonna follow the protocol and keep that many animals there? And not
No,
go,
I'm not- I'm not-
go
I'm not-
booming
if
out
you
of
asked
business
me
here?
how we starting, I'm telling you between, I told you the numbers, it might be, 5 or 6 goats, it might be more, it depends how busy we are. When it
So
comes
it
to
could be
business,
more.
I hope I can have, 10 or 15 at once.
Sure.
If there's 10 to 15 customers comes every day, I'll bring it every day. I mean,
How
I'll
many,
try to make as
it
much
was
as I
asked
can. This is
specifically,
the
how
business.
many are you gonna have down there? though? That's what it is.
To start, it's between 5 to 6.
And then,
You might, the highest, the most we sell is Brooklyn. If you Google, the most we sell in Brooklyn is 30 lambs a week. That's the highest we sell. And that's the busiest place.
and you'll have accommodations for 30 lambs and 30 goats and 10,000 chickens, and you'll have the
10,000
accommodations?
now.
Yes, I'll have.
All right.
In Brooklyn, the square
I
feet.
think it's a
have
fair
4,000
question.
I have 4,000 square feet in Brooklyn, and that's the oldest place, and I bought it it was opened back in 1933. It's been there for so many years, and it's still, up to now, we do up to maybe 7,000 to 10,000 chickens a week. We do between 30 to 35, maybe 20 to 35 lambs and goats a week. That's the max.
Thank you. I'd like to act, Mr. President, though, I'd like to actually, after they're done, I would like to actually invite up our,
Okay, one more Councilor. Councilor McLaughlin.
At this point, I'll yield the floor to Council McKinnon and allow him to continue.
That's it. Okay, any further discussion with these gentlemen?
Excuse the customary thanks.
Excuse with the customary thanks, but please stay, hang around in case we need to ask you some more questions. okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If we can find any space.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen, for appearing tonight, by the way.
We have, just you'll know, we have invited James Soper, Lou Stafiri, Frank Nuzzo, Eileen Silva, Tony Souza, and Margie Galaska, and our city solicitor be here. Also, we have, from our last meeting, Al and Joanne Graciosi, Katie Rogers, Patricia Rogers, Stacia Giorgione, Patricia Silva, and I understand that these people have a spokesperson, and that's the ones that we have invited back here. So you can either take the department heads
President?
or the people from the audience first. Which one? And I'm sorry, I have Councilor Mangan first. Councilor Mangan?
My recommendation would be to take the residents first. There's been a lot of people waiting here for, several hours, like Councilor Matusky did say, there's some senior citizens still for us. So I make a motion that we take the residents up to speak first. And
Second the
then-
motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion made, second. Any further discussion on that motion? No? Why? We don't need a roll call vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Ms. Rogers, are you representing all the?
Yes.
Why don't you come forward then, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Rogers. I live at 78 Inglewood Avenue. I spoke last week on this issue, and I was invited to speak back along with a couple of residents that were also invited, and I'm representing them tonight. They understand what I am going to say for the most part and agree, have the same views. So, first of all, I would like to bring to your attention a flyer that I will pass around. It's just sort of a briefing on I proposed a petition online on change.org, which received 1,370 signatures in opposition of this slaughterhouse as of 5 p.m. this afternoon. This petition was started on Tuesday evening. On the next page, I did a little bit of homework myself, and I too found the concerns that were happening in Philadelphia. I'd just like to note a couple of things, even though a few of them were already mentioned, but I'm just going to highlight them again on behalf of the residents. So this is a food safety inspection report. It was done on 9/27/2016. I found this information online. I was not able to contact anybody in Philadelphia, though I did try to reach them today. So there was, one of the big concerns was that they did not have knowledge of reportable foodborne illnesses, and they were issued reading material. Another concern was no water at one of 2 hand wash sinks in the chicken prep room, no soap, no paper towels at 2 sinks in the chicken prep room. There was multiple flies observed and lots of mouse droppings observed in the area. There was some other issues, I'm not going to keep highlighting them, but as far as the sinks weren't sealed, et cetera, et cetera. Another concern that really caught my attention in Philadelphia specifically was that there was alteration or construction that began prior to plan submission and approval to the city. So a walk-in cooler was installed without approval. A completed plan review application with proper plans drawn to scale showing all design features, including all food service equipment specifications and the location of toilet rooms, plumbing fixtures, et cetera, needed to be presented. It was not. And the claim that this was there for several years and not noticed doesn't seem valid because they did have other inspections over the years, which it seems not plausible to me that none of the inspectors would have noticed an additional room or would have brought this to their attention before that this was a violation to have this additional room or freezer. So in here is the actual documentation of that. And so I will pass that around, starting with Councilor McLaughlin. And then I will start on behalf of the residents. With a variety of new opportunity presented to our city, Everett residents are visualizing a brighter future. Pictured is a future where we can live, work, and prosper in our own city. Over the past several years, it is no secret that many families and young adults who have lived in Everett their entire lives have distanced themselves from the city for better opportunities elsewhere. After graduating high school or earning a college education, young adults leave and do not return to the city due to the stigma Everett had. Everett residents have had little choice in letting factories and establishments in, such as Monsanto, which resided in Everett for years. It isn't until recently that Everett is finally getting a great opportunity to move forward in a new direction and place itself on the map as an up-and-coming city. Everett is attracting a high-end casino, luxury hotels, and condo complexes because of our convenient location to Boston. Instead of getting the brunt of businesses that were not desirable in a major city like Boston, but needed to be close by, we are now having the opportunity to become a notable city on its own. Like it or not, Everett will be on the map, and not just because it is touching Boston, but because it will have its own successes that will be recognized nationally and internationally. This evening, I am voicing the concerns of the hundreds of Everett residents whom also signed an online petition to not have a slaughterhouse business in this community for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, Everett is not a community fit for livestock. This is why no more than 6 egg-laying chickens are permitted per residence. It seems inappropriate for a business to be held to a different standard, particularly for the purpose of slaughter on a retail basis. Living in the city is a sacrifice for all in some regards. We may be one bus stop away from the heart of Boston, but because of that commodity, we do not get the luxury of having farm-fresh milk, cheese, eggs, and meat that one would get while residing in a rural community. It is our understanding that Saba Live Poultry would be considered a slaughterhouse on all accounts, which is primarily state mandated. This means Everett would have little control over the facility once it is in operation. Health concerns, safety issues, animal rights would all have to be addressed by the state and could not be exclusively handled internally. It is our understanding, as stated at last week's meeting, that Saba Live Poultry invested $50,000 for the purposes of opening in Everett without consulting the city council or acquiring proper permission. This is already a red flag for us as citizens. According to research, slaughterhouses harbor diseases such as E. coli and bird flu, just to name a few. As of September 24th, Adams Farm Slaughterhouse in Athol, Massachusetts, was forced to recall an abundance of meat that had been exposed to E. coli. For those unfamiliar with E. coli, it is a potentially deadly bacterium which can kill humans if consumed. This is not to be taken lightly. Furthermore, slaughterhouses are known to attract rodents and other wild animals that can be a nuisance pest for years to come. By adding a facility that deals with the housing of live animals, the slaughter of those animals, and the disposal of blood and other random parts of animal carcasses, it could potentially increase any existing issues with rodents that the city has already diligently been working on to keep under control. Some Everett residents are more familiar with the nature of slaughterhouses than others and express that the smell emitting from them can be so putrid and vile, making them extremely unpleasant to be around. This concerns Everett residents, especially with the development in that area. Due to this, those who are not customers at this facility may find it undesirable to even visit other nearby businesses, which would be a great disservice to the businesses that have already been established or have already been approved in this area before this proposal came to this board. We cannot see how a retail slaughterhouse would contribute to the betterment of the vision that Everett residents have for the coming years. Upon further research, it has been discovered that Saba Live Poultry, located in Philadelphia, as mentioned, has been flagged for a number of health code violations as recently as September 27th, 2016. They have been cited for at least 8 violations as of last week. These violations included a lack of knowledge on reportable foodborne illnesses, a lack of soap, disinfectant, and paper towels, a notable amount of flies and mouse droppings, sanitation concerns, and additional construction without proper approval from the City of Philadelphia. It is our understanding that Restaurant Depot offers a wide range of fresh cut meats and halal meat. and is only a few hundred feet away from the proposed location of Saba Live Poultry. Restaurant Depot allowed me to personally tour their facility. Viewing the wide range of meat that they have to offer, including a wide range of halal certified meats. A representative also expressed that they are able to work with customers on an individual basis to meet their needs if they do not have a particular type of meat in their facility. In addition, there are several other small meat markets in Everett and neighboring communities where fresh daily meats and halal meats can be purchased or ordered without being killed on site. As Councilor Matusky stated at last week's meeting, the state of Massachusetts is voting on question 3 this November, a proposal to prohibit the sale of eggs, veal, or pork from a farm animal that is confined in a tight space, preventing the animal from lying down, standing up, extending its legs, or turning around. From the online photographs that we have seen, it appears that Saba Live Poultry consistently confines their animals in what many would consider inhumane spaces at their locations throughout the country. While Saba Live Poultry expressed their interest in slaughtering live chickens, goats, and sheep, their website also states they slaughter cows and other livestock, and we are concerned that at a later date, if this establishment is allowed, there will be little Everett can do to prevent it from expanding into other livestock, since it will be state mandated for the most part. It is unclear to us whether livestock will be slaughtered in front of customers. That was actually told to us tonight. At their other locations, they do show that they have windows where customers can view the slaughter, much like the ones that you have at a car wash. We also feel that the addition of Saba Live Poultry in our community would be emotionally distressing to vegans, vegetarians, and animal activists who reside here who otherwise found Everett an attractive and welcoming community. Everett is a leading community in the animal activist world, and with many residents being passionate about various animal-related causes. A slaughterhouse might have been fit for the city of Everett 20 years ago, when better opportunities could not be imagined. Saba Live Poultry does not align with the vision Everett is heading towards now. On behalf of the opposition, we hope that the councilors see this as a cautionary statement and understand that it will be difficult to reverse this decision if it is approved. Thank you. If there's any questions on behalf of the community.
Are there any questions of the, yes, Councilor McKinnon? I'm sorry, McLaughlin.
Not really a question, but I would like to thank Katie for her due diligence on this issue and hard work. She has spent most of the past week meeting with residents and working diligently to make sure that this issue was heard loud and clear and everybody in the city understood what was at stake. And I applaud you, Katie, for your efforts on this, and thank you for your work.
Questions, Councilor McKinnon?
Through you, Mr. President, to the guest. The number that was signed on to the petition, how many people had signed on?
The number on the petition, the number was going around, but it was 1,300.
I made one for everybody.
About 1,300?
About 1,300, yeah.
Okay. And they're all over Everett, correct? These are residents from all over Everett?
Yes, actually some people from Chelsea even expressed their concerns. It being so close to Chelsea High School, they felt that they wanted a voice as well on the matter. But for the majority, the vast majority of those signatures, I would say at least 1,000 were Everett residents.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Councilor, any questions of, no? Thank you very, very much for coming.
Thank you so much for listening.
Councilor DeFlorio.
Mr. Chairman, I just want everybody to understand, Attorney Faris, when we have the public hearing, anybody is allowed to speak. The reason why, this is a committee meeting, and we already invited these people up, so that's why we can't allow everybody to speak. But once the public hearing comes up, everybody's allowed to speak, so I want your clients to understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, councilors, the next phase would be to.
I'll make a motion that we invite up the department heads.
Department head forward.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Councilor McLaughlin? No.
I would like to invite up the respectable members that were asked to come
Okay,
before us. I'll
Councilor-
yield the floor, Councilman McKinnon.
Councilor McKinnon.
Can we have Jim Sopa, Lucius Ferry, the city solicitor, health department
Well, you got
director?
one at a time? One,
They can come
there's
out.
only 3 chairs there.
I'd have all up, instead of going back and forth.
Yeah, they're gonna be coming back and forth, so might as well have them all come up.
Who else did you want, Counselor? Counselor, who else did you want?
City solicitor. She's out in the hallway.
Okay.
And I do have a question for somebody from the mayor's office, if we can ask somebody from May DeMaria's office to appear.
Could we have the
whether-
chief of staff up?
Chief of
or-
staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richie, Rich. Get- yeah. Pass these down. As we call you, just come up, the ones that we want to speak to. But you'll be close by enough to actually do it. And just tell them to speak into the mic when they come up. Just tell them to speak, okay? I'm ready.
Okay. I think that's the 5 we first called. Yeah.
Thanks, Freddie.
Okay. Meeting will resume. To the members sitting at the table, when you do speak, make sure that you pass around the microphone so that we hear who you are and what you're saying and everything. So, why don't you just quickly announce who you are, you know?
Good evening, Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff for the Med. Good evening, Mr. President. Jim Soper, the Director of Inspectional Services.
Good evening, Elaine Silva, Director for the Health Department.
Thank you.
Good evening, Colleen Mejia, City Solicitor.
Thank you.
Good evening, Louis DeFerry, Food and Milk Inspector.
Okay. All right. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President, to you, to our guests. Mrs. Staffieri, I have a question for you. When was the first time that you had spoken to the individuals that were trying to open this proposed slaughterhouse?
In the middle of February.
Could you-
In the middle of February.
In the middle of February?
In the middle of February, they came up.
February of 2016? Thank you. And when you did actually speak to them, did you inform them of what they had to do to actually proceed forward?
When they originally came up, I had told them honestly, this is a first for me. I wanted to research it. I didn't want to give them the wrong information, and then I would get back to them. I did research it. I figured out what needed to be done. I set up a meeting with myself, one of the brothers, Elaine Silva was there, and I got a gentleman from the USDA who came out, passed out pamphlets, went through the whole thing with all of us. Because, like I said,
This is the first?
so
Okay.
I didn't know which way I was going with it. So at that time, he got all the information that was provided, and I actually even got Neil Talbot from the FDA, and I gave him the information that he gave us, that he needs a public hearing and all the state statutes that went along with it.
Okay, so there was mention of a public hearing?
Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
Okay, so they knew that there had to be a public hearing?
Right from the beginning, I told them. Not that first day, because I went through the process, I did my homework, and we all met, and at that time, they knew exactly that they needed a public hearing.
Now, did the individuals, because they stated that they came up and they got the okay from also your department, the health department, and there was another department, they said that they got the okay from to just go down there and do their thing?
No, what we told them, what I told them is, as long as Lane was there with me, is this is all on the state. This, coming before me, I'm going there, if I do an inspection, I'm looking for sanitary conditions, that normal stuff.
Sure.
The state pays the lead. And I told them that from the beginning, I gave them the name, and they knew that what they should have done.
And then they also knew that they had to have this public hearing that
Yeah,
we just
no,
had?
like I said, I provided them with all the information that I could get.
Okay. Mr. Soper, my question's directed at you then. We have a document, we have your documents as well, Mr. Safari, but there was a document that it's dated October 3, 2016, and that's for today. But it also was signed by Mr. Lane, George Lane.
That's right, he's one of the local.
One of the building inspectors.
One of the
correct?
building inspectors, yes.
Okay. And it mentioned violations, notice of violations required, and then violation penalties on it. Who was that sent to?
That was sent to the owner of the property.
Okay. So he knew that this was in violation, they knew what they had to do.
We also had several discussions with the applicant
So you
at
had
my
discussions-
office,
You had discussions with
at the job site.
two gentlemen to the left here?
Made
Right.
them a gentleman on the far left, Baloo. Had discussions with Baloo at my office several times, researched the law for him on my own occasion. Wasn't even aware that Louis did it prior to myself, when I met with him at the counter. There was work started without a permit.
Without the permit?
They poured about,
That's what the violation was?
yeah, 5,000 square feet of 6-inch thick concrete all over a wooden floor without a building permit, without any ability to review the plans, establish how much load was going to be applied to this floor, and in what manner it would be installed. None of that was reviewed. It was just done without a permit. I don't know in what state you can get away with that, but most states in the country have adopted the International Code Council. In fact, all 50 states have adopted
We
it.
have here?
Yes, we have.
Thank you. And so that you construed as a violation, of course?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Mr. Lane was proper in giving this out to the, not only to the building owner, but also to the gentleman that you described that is trying to put the business in?
That's correct. And then he came back with an engineer's drawing that classified the concrete as lightweight concrete. That's when we had him cut a sample. I took the sample here and I weighed it downstairs on a scale.
So he knew.
Classified it as
He knew
not.
he was in violation?
Right then.
Okay. And that's why he brought the sample back?
Well, he brought the sample back to verify, well, a lot of times I'll see engineers will make statements without doing proper research. This is one of those times. Lightweight concrete, maybe 15 pounds per square foot. This is 60, so it's a big difference. There's damage done to this building. Damage.
From this?
From this, yes.
So, fair to say that everyone knew what it was?
No doubt about it.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Soper.
You're welcome.
From the health department aspect of it, you were with,
Yes,
Louis
Mr.
Staffieri?
Yes, I was
Okay.
present at that
And
meeting.
this was from start to finish,
That's
right
right.
through?
Mhm.
Okay.
In March 17th of
And just give me a
2016.
short, brief synopsis of what happened at that
We
meeting.
had the meeting, Louis came to us and told us
Mr.
from the health
Staffieri?
department, Mr. Staffieri, in regards to someone had come to propose to have this facility of a slaughterhouse. When we checked all our charters and checked the state, we realized that we had really no inspection and we couldn't do any permitting unless we knew from the USDA, the FDA, and the council and to have public hearings. At that time, Louis and I sat and talked. It was on his suggestion that we had the representative come in from the USDA to meet with us and the gentleman from the company, so that we would have the right understanding and be able to give this gentleman, point him in the correct direction. And at which time at that meeting, he was informed from the USDA exactly what had to go on.
Okay. So they knew from that standpoint that pretty much they had to go through FDA, state, and,
Yes, they did.
you know, all the federal guidelines, all the state guidelines, and then they had to
And
come
have a
before
hearing
us.
and come before council and get permission from the mayor also. They knew that.
So they knew that had to happen?
Mhm.
Okay. Because they had testified that they didn't know that, or they didn't know that they had a violation or anything like that. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm just trying to clear it up right now. From the mayor's office, the chief of staff, were you aware of this at any point in time, that this was going to be coming in down there, or was the mayor involved with that? Or?
I could only speak that I only became aware of it when it came out on as an agenda item for the last meeting.
Okay. So that was the first time that you had seen it as?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. To our city solicitor, what's your opinion on this? I want a legal opinion on this right now, which way we should proceed with this, because we're going to need one.
I mean, you vote however you feel you need to vote. I wasn't here last week I assume that you had your public hearing?
We did.
Just my reading of the statute, the Board of Health should be included in that, because the population of the city is more than 5,000.
Okay.
So, I would include the Board of Health. And, short of that, I think, the health officials here in the city of Everett did a great job. The building department did a great job in their research.
Okay. So, fair to say, when we do take this vote eventually or tonight, to actually send it to the next meeting or wherever it's gonna go, how should we proceed with that legally?
If this is a committee meeting, then
Yes.
you refer it back to the regular meeting, and that's when you have.
I know, I just wanna hear you say.
Yeah, and that's where you have the final vote would be.
At the council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Councilor Capone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to our guests. Mr. Sopa, when was the first time, if you can recall, that you encountered the cement floor?
I was warned or told by Inspector George Lane sometime mid-July, the date of that letter, the date that letter indicates.
Okay, so Mr. Lane's the one who actually saw it?
He's the actual one who saw it. Everybody reports to me. I'm up on things that happen in my department every day.
And was it a July timeframe? Could it have been earlier? We don't know. That's what it came to.
Oh, I think it happened that day. There was red, the concrete floor was colored red. There was red, excuse me, dust all out in the parking lot, and there was a man there finishing up, so.
Okay, so all indications were that that floor was done relatively around that timeframe, not way back in time.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin.
I have a question for Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. O'Donnell, you said that the first time you heard about this issue was last week when it came out on the council floor. Have you had a conversation with the mayor? Because the mayor obviously has a big say in this, because under Chapter 151, I believe it is, it says that it needs to be approved by the mayor and the city council. So the mayor we could take the vote next Monday night, the mayor could veto it and send it back to us and tell us to do something else with it. Have you had a conversation with the mayor on where he stands on this particular matter in the past week?
No, we do have something scheduled, but we have not had an in-depth discussion because I was still gathering some more information. Bearing in mind that last week was my first day back in the office after a 2-week absence, so I needed to gather some more data. So we will be having that discussion over the next day or two.
I was hoping that the mayor would have had that, only because, like I say, no matter what our vote is, I guess at the end of the day, it stops with the mayor, because he can veto it and send it back to us, as he did just a couple of weeks past with another item that he vetoed on us. So that was my question regarding the mayor and his stance on the issue. My questions were answered for Mr. Staffieri, which was that in beginning of March of 2016, the business owners were notified that this process needed to take place. So for them to say that they were not notified, it is not truthful. That's all I need to know about this individual and this business, and it made my mind very clear tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is to the Board of Health Director, or to Mr. Staffieri, who actually inspects
Next.
lamb and goat meat. Can be you inspect Restaurant Depot and McKinnon's and
McKinnon.
and this is called the Humla product. Is that Halva product? It can be bought at these other places. Is that correct?
I honestly
You don't have, okay, because we're gonna have to give reasons to, if we actually deny this petition, that these products can be purchased in other locations nearby this mosque, because Mr. Faris is on target here. They will throw these things at us. So would you find that out for us, that they can be purchased? Because I guess we'll be voting on this at the next council meeting, and I would like that information. And the question I have to the building department is, they poured concrete flooring, is that it?
Yes.
And they're supposed to use lightweight, which is 15 pounds per square foot?
Well, their engineer falsely indicated documents to my office that lightweight concrete was used. We asked the applicant to take a test cut and deliver it to my office so I could verify that. I verified it not to be lightweight concrete. So a falsified document from an engineer would usually prompt me to start calling that engineer and asking him why and what he did. And there was mention of additional cuts because the height in that it's varied from 6 inches to 3 inches because they were going to pitch the floor to troughs. So that's why this concrete was laid on the floor.
On top of a wooden floor?
On top of a wooden floor with wooden joists underneath it.
That's not common practice.
That's not common practice at all, no.
So there's a basement to this property?
There's a basement to this property. The slab would have wire mesh. It would have expansion joints cut in it. None of these things were done.
So the building is unsafe at this point?
I'm looking at that building as being unsafe, and anyone going in this basement at this point. So the owner of that building is going to have to make these repairs. That's why this owner of the building got the letter.
He's been there for many years, and he's been a pretty respectable person, the owner of the building. I don't know who did the work. So the question here I have is that it is now an unsafe building for animals or people to even actually walk into this building.
Yes, yes.
Could collapse.
The engineer has made statements that are false. And so from there, the weight the load that's put on that floor is not, that floor is not capable of carrying it.
And to repair that, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Steel beams down below.
So we're talking a lot of money.
And the slab was not poured correctly. As I said, there's no expansion, there's no wire mesh. All these things that are required in the building code that's adopted by 50 states were not practiced.
And if they had done it correctly, they would have put the steel in first, is that it?
They would have, yes, supported the floor correctly before they put the weight on it, and then properly put a membrane between the wood floor and the concrete, and then properly installed wire mesh that they would be required by their engineer to install with the diagram. None of that happened. This is all after the fact, and there's a lot of cover-up going on, so we're going to have a few questions.
That's scary to me.
Yeah.
Because we have city employees now going into this property to inspect it, and state, anybody really. The owner might not even be aware that this has occurred. But I'm very, very shocked that, because it's an older building, you clearly know that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some heavy metal machinery that was in there on this floor, so if it held that, why wouldn't it hold anything else?
Well, that's up for a competent engineer to tell me, and you know, I'm willing to let that happen, but when I see, you know, right out in boldface that the engineer has not done his work, has not asked for a test cut, did not weigh the material as I did, and I can conclusively state that it is not lightweight concrete.
Thank you very much. I was very surprised to hear that. Thank you.
Councilor DeFlorio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know there's a lot of confusion, and I might ask the same question over again. The work that was done, was it done by these folks, or was it done by the owner?
It was done by these folks.
Okay, because we were told it was done by the owner. So I just want to clarify, they're the ones that poured the cement.
I was told by Baloo that he paid for that job. Doesn't mean he screeded the cement, but he paid someone to do that work.
He paid someone to do that job?
Right.
Okay. And the person that did the job, was he licensed?
No.
Well, obviously, because he would know to put down black paper and wire before you do a, I even know that.
Or he'd get a permit.
Right,
Yeah.
because you don't put cement on top of a wood floor. That's unheard of. So they never got a permit. They got a person that was not licensed to do the job, and the engineer lied.
And the engineer lied.
Okay. Well, I've made up my mind 100% now. Thank you.
Councilor Delasola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Sopa, when, I know we said in February is the first time we had contact with these gentlemen,
My health inspector, my food and milk inspector, Louis, did.
and when did they do you know when they did any work in the building at all? Not the floor itself, but when did they go in there?
I have no idea when they went in there. I just sat down with them on the 17th with the inspector from the state and went through everything that they needed to do.
It was a prior
Because I wanted to
location.
know myself.
There was a prior location they had
Oh,
in
yeah,
mind.
and they had a prior location also. that was down on Beecham Street that they were looking at, and they lost that location because I was taking so long to get all the information that I needed to give them. So the original location was in Beecham Street, which would have been probably a very good location.
Yeah, down in the
Nothing
market would be a
down-
nice spot.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
nothing down there at all.
One more question. Because we know the building is dangerous and we know about it, is that closed now to anybody going in? Are we liable if we know right now that it's dangerous and we don't shut that building down?
Well, that would be, a liability question might go better with the solicitor, but we've done our due diligence in the building department, notifying the owner that his building is worked done without a permit. The floor has been overloaded beyond its capacity. It's up to that owner to make the proper changes in that floor. We've allowed no occupancy of that building at this point.
I'm just worried about if there was, I know there's not much in there that could catch on fire, but if there ever was a fire and our firemen went in there, and God forbid it collapsed, knowing that it was unsafe, there's a lot of options here that we can.
I agree with you
try to nip in the bud here.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
All right, thank you.
I was just gonna hit on that topic, Mr. Soper. I think that we need to go down there and put a red X on the building, to be very honest with you. I think that the building is structurally unsafe for anybody to go into that building. God forbid there's a fire in there tonight, and a firefighter runs in that building, and that floor collapses under the heat and smoke and intense of a fire. Somebody gets injured. God forbid somebody dies in that building tonight. What's our liability as city councilors that we knew that there was an issue? We need to issue a red X on that building immediately, I think.
Yeah, the X's are issued by the fire department in conjunction with the building commissioner. That's myself. So, yes, we will be taking care of that. I don't think the council has any liability, but I'll leave that to the solicitor.
I'm glad that we don't, but to know that we know about it, it needs to be rectified tomorrow morning because it's a very serious matter. I'll be honest, I can't believe what I've heard tonight. To be very honest, they were in better shape than last week. This is bad, very bad to be truthful.
Thank you very much for appearing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Would anyone like to petition this back? Okay, no one would like to petition this back. Okay. Therefore, Councilor Capone.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my ward. It's our city. This is my ward. Councilman Matusky shares this ward. I don't understand how, so as does Councilor Napolitano. I don't understand how the processing of food for human consumption, not having soap in a prep area, not having soap in a toilet area, not having hot water to kill bacteria is not a concern. I don't understand. That's beyond me. The facility has had ongoing violations, not only these items, fly infestation, mouse droppings. It's not just in Philadelphia. It's in several other of their facilities. And it's not like it happened last week or yesterday. This has been going on since 2014. These are ongoing concerns. And maybe it's part of the industry. I don't know. But if it's my business and I know these are my issues, I'm on top of them. There are halal meat products that are available elsewhere in this community without the need of maintaining and slaughtering animals on site. And then we've got, I'm sure all of us have received phone calls. We've been approached from folks. I haven't had one person speak in favor of this, obviously, other than the petitioners. There was nobody here in this hall this evening that's in favor, unless I'm missing something. The petition went out. What the public sentiment is a piece of the puzzle. It's just a piece of the puzzle. But when you put these other pieces, and then one of the biggest concerns I have is when you add into the mix that, and I will be very polite, the petitioners were less than forthright on several items, including the pouring of the cement, the timing of that, making it an unsafe structure, conversations with various employees in the city, and then declaring that they don't know that they needed to get a public hearing. no violations, when there's surely a history. You add that all together, that is not a neighbor I want. So my recommendation is that we refer this out to the body with a, that it goes out with unfavorable, that we deny
I'll
it.
second.
We can do that on the floor, so.
I second it, Mr.
Councilor, I get a second. Councilor McKinnon.
I'd like to see if at some point we can attach the different statements that Council Capone had suggested on that for his unfavorable. But I think that we should have additional, if we have anybody from the council. to
Councilor
add to
Capone, if
that.
you just give everything that you have to the clerk, then we'll make sure it gets added into the
I will,
full
Mr.
record,
President.
okay?
Also-
Yes,
Mr.
Councilor
President,
McKinnon.
also, like, I believe also the video tonight would be a testament, because we had testimony in front of us, you know, asking, and as Councilor Capone just mentioned about being forthright, and we have the petitioners up saying one thing, and we certainly have documentation and some, we heard from the department heads here stating certain things contrary to what they said, so certainly the video itself, I think of this particular committee meeting stands for itself. Thank you.
Any
Roll
further-
call vote.
Any further discussion? Councilor McKinnon? I'm sorry, Councilor Napolitano.
It's all right, Mr. President, I'm getting used to it now.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I mean, I concur with everything being said here. You know, personally, I live 3 blocks from there, very familiar with the neighborhood, it's actually part of my neighborhood, I've been there, living there almost 60 years. Okay, we've already heard testimony, I mean, they're coming in basing this on their experience, and yet they're missing things and making modifications to the property that underscores a lack of, or rather, to me, underscores a lack of experience. They profess a preparation of a higher standard, and yet we're aware of violations that are contrary to those higher standards. You know, this is not 1930. I mean, I respect, you know, the religious beliefs. I'm very involved in my own church. But the thing is that the people of Everett, the residents of Everett, we've moved beyond slaughtering our own meat. We've moved beyond processing our own cheese or churning our own butter or growing our own vegetables. We do that on small scales, and we allow that. But this is not the direction that the city of Everett is moving toward. You know, I was involved about 20 years ago when I worked in the banking world with developers in the city of Chelsea. And the thing is, trying to get the city council at that time in Chelsea, for example, to have a different vision of the city took a lot of effort. In Everett, it's tough for a lot of our residents to understand the vision that the city is trying to embrace right now and the direction we're moving in. Yes, we're a low-income, blue-collar city, but we don't think, a lot of us don't think like that. And I think this is the wrong type of business for such a small, congested, community. Yes, it's definitely specializing and meeting the needs of a small percentage, and I'm sure a growing percentage of residents of the Muslim faith who are coming to the area. But it doesn't change the fact that this is not what we're looking for Revere Beach Parkway. We have all different types of development coming in, and we're going to attract development that we can't even imagine at this point. And I preface this by the fact that 5 years ago, nobody would have given a discussion of, or any consideration of a casino coming to the Everett. So the thing is that we have no idea what the future holds for the city of Everett, other than we're moving in a very positive direction. And based on everything I've heard, even just based on the idea of this type of business, I don't think it's a right fit for the city. Given the fact that we're hearing conflicting information tonight, both in what they classify as a violation and what we consider a violation, again, for a business that, for health standards, is trying to present a higher standard, I have a problem with that. And now hearing the testimony from the building inspector about what's going on with the building and how that's come about, as I said to the petitioners early on, our collective experience has been that we've more often seen people come in, spend the money, and try to use that as a basis to get a permit. I didn't believe that was the case here. I believe a little more now that that is a possibility, and for that reason I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin, before you had got that.
Mr. President,
Then I'll
briefly.
take that motion.
Briefly, last week I asked for this to go to committee because there was a lot of uncertainties and a lot of questions that I need to have clarified before we made this vote. I asked for it to go to committee at that point, and I couldn't be prouder that I did, because I think the information that we got tonight and the information that we learned tonight couldn't be sounder to make sure that we know that next Monday night we should vote no on this petition. This petition does not belong in the city of Everett. I wish him well in his future endeavors, but I hope that we will support collectively voting 11-0 not to support this business coming to the city of Everett. Thank you.
Councilor McKinnon.
Just a quick question, Mr. President, to you and to the clerk. Do they have the right, as petitioners, to withdraw without prejudice? Okay. And if they do so, how long of a period and
I
what's
think
the
it would have to be
timeframe?
before the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Just as an option, if they would choose so. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion made and second for unfavorable action to be returned to this full city council.
So,
to-
Mr. Chairman, just before, just so everyone's clear, a year's vote would be, just so everyone's clear of, a year's vote would be to send it back with an unfavorable recommendation, correct?
Correct.
So, correct.
Okay. So, again, to return to the full council with unfavorable recommendation, and to attach to that, it will be Councilor Capone's notes, the TV of this meeting, the, am I writing? Oh, the petitioner that presented by Kate Rogers, and also attached, and all be made part of this record. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Motion made and seconded to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? We have adjourned. Thank you, audience, very much for coming.